The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there! All right.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot.
Sweetie, really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Love you.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's good to have you along for the ride on this Friday, April 14th, Saturday, April 15th. If you're on the East Coast, hope you had a great Easter. Good Friday. We are live right here in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, right here in the Great White North, live 7 days a week. Let's welcome in everyone listening in on our terrestrial stations, the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are also live on spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio. Remember, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. If you like our theme music, you can thank Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. Hey, if you're a social media junkie like I am, give us a follow on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. We're on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and Stitcher. Our YouTube channel, where we store our archives, is Spaced Out Radio Show. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. You can also go to patreon.com. For as low as $1 a month. You can become a patron of Spaced Out Radio as well. If you want to take part in this show, what I ask that you do is sign into one of the chat rooms. You can either go onto our website, spacedoutradio.com, click on Listen Live, go on to Revolution Radio, on Spreaker, on the UPRN chat room, or if you're a valued member of the SOR Space Travelers Club, like Gail, KJ, Bill, Joe, Gloria, Claudia, you know who you are. You can chat in there as well. Or, if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. It's right in front of me. I'll get to your questions and comments in there as well. If you head to our website for $5 a month, you can join the SOR Space Travelers Club. You can also check out the Encounter Online, our brand new news section set up by our editors, Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. Got them confused there. You can also check out my latest blog there as well. And if you had an experience you can't explain, fill out a Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Schmidt, is ready to find out what's going on. Today, we look up into the skies where things just may not be the way they seem. For there are craft up there. Some humans, others, well, let's just say even the most top-secret government officials don't know what they are. But they do know that there are anomalies flying around Earth's skies. Joe Montaldo, our guest tonight, has had some of those same questions since serving on the U.S. Navy's USS Nimitz in the late 70s, early 80s. Joe is the founder and national director for ICAR, International Community for Alien Research. ICAR has close to 7,000 abduction cases on file. Joe has been a researcher, investigator of alien contact, abductions, and experiencers for more than 20 years. He is the owner of the United Public Radio Network, which we broadcast on nightly, and the host of Wake Up USA, a UFO study talk show. He is also a board member representing contactees for Dr. Michael Sala's Exopolitics Institute. He's a busy man. He wears many hats, but he's got a great mane of hair. Joe Montaldo, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
Pretty good, Dave. But let's clarify. I got half a great mane of hair. All the sides are gorgeous. The top still shines. But it's interesting. It's just, guys, I'm sorry. I'm lazy. I don't want to cut my hair.
I don't blame you.
To be honest with you, at one time it was down in my ass, and then I cut it and I donated it to Locks of Love, which are, anybody who's had children are having cancer, they use it to make wigs. They ain't near that thick anymore, guys. But what's up there is a recent picture, so if anybody's seen it, that's the reason. The one what y'all had on your site must be like, I don't know, that's some old ugly ass picture from God knows where. But anyway, thanks, Dave. I appreciate being here. I always love doing radio. I can't ever shut myself up, so there's nowhere else better to be but on the air.
Absolutely. And you know what? On behalf of all Spaced Out Radio listeners, my friend, I want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to broadcast on the United Public Radio Network. You were looking for a nighttime show. We were looking for new homes. And you know what? We really appreciate you taking a shot on us because you've given us a hell of a lot of listeners, my friend. And I hope we're there to keep you happy as well.
Yeah. Well, y'all doing a great job. I enjoy the shows. Everybody who works for y'all do a great job. Everybody's really nice over there. So far, I haven't heard anything negative, which, by the way, is a little creepily weird. Usually somebody's got to write to me and gripe about something, but so far so good. And I have noticed, let's be honest, the slots before that, the 3 hours we're talking about here, if we were lucky, we were running reruns, maybe 5,000 listens an hour, 7,000 listens an hour, something like that. Well, that's increased greatly, so I'm quite happy with that. Oh, and by the way, I got to get on somebody's butt about updating my bio. Currently, ICAR, we have about 27,000 investigated abduction cases with about 52,000 members worldwide. We're presently active in 75 countries around the world, with some of those groups being well over 5,000, like the one in Brazil, the one in Madrid. Those groups are separate entities from the ICAR. We don't actually count them on our membership roll. They're part of the organization, but their membership is separate from ours. It's a great thing to be doing. I like doing it. And, look, like the saying says, like they say, you can rest when you're dead. You can sleep when you're dead. I'm sorry. Until then, what the hell, man? We have such finite time on this planet that I plan on using it all, or at least as much as I can. When they say, do you have regrets? I said, yeah, there wasn't more days and more hours in the day. I enjoy it. I really do. And late night radio is great, by the way. Oh, there was a show here about 5 years ago that used to be, that came on from midnight to 3 a.m., but I don't think we can talk about it on the air.
No, we'll leave them and the mustache away from this one.
It's a very strange show, too, I gotta say.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you being with us because we try and bring our best every night to you and your network, and I'm just excited to get you on because the one thing I love about you, Joe, and we were talking about this earlier before the show, so I don't mind throwing it to the public's way. You are very rogue in what you do, and what I mean by that is full-on complimentary. You're a guy who takes all pieces of information, and you let yourself decide, because in this community, whether it's UFOs, whether it's ghosts, whether it's cryptids like Bigfoot, so many people try to build this base of researchers or investigators that have the same opinion as them, and nobody wants to stretch outside of that opinion. You have done things differently when you set up your radio network, ICAR, and everything. You wanted to stay very rogue so that way you could make a formal opinion on your own. What made you go that way?
Well, because when I first decided, I don't even know what finally drugged me into the public eye. I was doing a lot of research for MUFON back in the day. A lot of stuff, and I was in a lot of things. We had just laid out an abduction thing where we took 5,000 cases to do a criteria basis on them, and every time I'd send MUFON something, it was like the black hole of Calcutta. I just wasn't getting anything back. We weren't getting. It wasn't just us. It was a lot of other people. It was just like they were collecting the data, but nobody knows where it was really going, and no one was really commenting on it. Nobody was cross-referencing, and it got me to start looking around. So I said, okay, well, let me see what I can find. Let me see who I can talk to. Well, first off, trying to get on a radio show, if you haven't been on like the speaking tour, is nightmarish. It's so, I pushed and shoved and got around some other stuff, and I said, well, that's not going to work. So I went and found some chat rooms, and we started chatting with people. And some guy named Ariel St. Sinclair, who said he was like a descendant of an alien, just put me over the edge, dude. I'm like, screw this. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to find some way to broadcast something. Well, a guy named Jeffrey, who owns Wake Up USA, a UFO study, he owns Stardust Radio Network, by the way, asked me out of the blue, right after I had this big fit about all this, in 2002, if I wanted to come host his radio show. And I was like, well, hey, I've never hosted a radio show before. What the hell am I getting myself into? Got into it, really, really liked it. Took off really good within a year. We had over 1 million listeners. The show was doing great. But still, it wasn't allowing me to get the kind of information I wanted out to the public. And, even when you go in places like Coast or any other big radio shows or even TV shows, they limit you to what you can say. So I decided that, actually, a friend of mine decided for me, to be honest with you. He gave me a radio station. Now, by saying that, he gave me a Live 365 subscription, basically, and said, here, I've been having this, and I've got like 500 listeners on it. Why don't you take it over? So I started putting my reruns on there and Coast to Coast. Well, after just a few months between those two sets of reruns, they had about 40,000 listeners over there. I was like, wow. So I started doubling up. Well, the guy who owned Wake Up USA, to make this a short story, got mad at me for some reason. Even though his show was getting tons of publicity, he got mad at me. So I said, okay, well, I said, I can't stop what I'm doing. It's growing too fast. So UFO Undercover was born. And all of this was basically born because ICAR and its affiliates needed a venue. We needed a way to get data and information out to the general public that, first off, is not going to be bottlenecked, not be cut. Just to put this in perspective, ladies and gentlemen, I was just recently on Ancient Aliens last year. And by the way, I love Ancient Aliens. I did 5-hour interview with him. You know how much airtime made it on there? What do you think, Dave? How much do you think made it on the air? Even though, and they put me between two great ufologists, but how much you think?
I'm going to hope you at least got an hour.
8 minutes.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, no, 8 minutes. It was a great 8 minutes. It's about the blood type research, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it was 8 minutes. Now, and they put me between John Mack and I think it was Bud Hobbs, between two great researchers. I mean, I was personally very happy with it, but still, 8 minutes. So all of that other stuff went to wherever it goes, and I'm sure they may use some of it in other episodes, but basically that's what you get. So when you do other radio shows, especially shows that are heavy in commercials, my very first Coast to Coast appearance, I was like, all right, I got 4 hours on Coast to Coast. Well, I'm just going to go ram crazy. And 4 hours on the Coast to Coast is actually 2 hours and 18 minutes. That's what you get. And a good, out of that 2 hours and 18 minutes, a good 30 minutes of that is taking questions at the end of the show, maybe 35 minutes. So you get about an hour, 20 minutes to actually talk to them. So those kind of things, and I love all these shows, by the way. I'm not criticizing, but we needed more talk time. So I established a network, set it up to where we did 2 hour shows, where we did 5 minutes at the end. We basically would make sure out of a 2 hour show that no more than 20 minutes got chopped out for any type of promos or anything else. So that way you always had at least an hour 40, an hour 45 minutes of just conversation. Just pure out conversation, no edited, no squeezing, no cutting, no floor, no nothing, everything just the way it is, live on the air, so everybody on the planet can listen to it at the same time. And that's really what it was about, because still to this day, and I've been all over the place, still to this day, if you want to get information out, you can call any major show, any major TV show, and you'll probably get on, but they're only going to take the amount they want. And you're not going to really be able to get whatever agenda it is you're out trying to push through. It's just they're not going to give you the time to do it. And it's all about making money for them. For us, it's all about research and truth. For them, it's all about making money. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't mind making some money, but still, I want the truth. I didn't get into this. as my wife reminds me and friends, I could be fully retired right now, ladies and gentlemen. Between what I spent on the station and ICAR, I could be retired living comfortably. And but I want to know the truth. Why does this go on? Why do brilliant people tell me they've been abducted by aliens? People who have lives and careers and sensitive positions tell me I've been taken by aliens. You know, you look at them like, what are you, crazy? Who took you? Where? What? But some of these people, their credibility is impeccable, and it's you just have to stop and go, what the hell? And it's a driving factor in all of this. And if it was one person or two people or three people or five people or 10 people, you know, I might be able to let it go. But, you know, between us and everybody we've done it, there's a good 50,000+ cases that have been investigated worldwide. And you can't say there's nothing going on. You got to know what the hell it is. Hey, Dave, what color eyes you got, man?
I'm a blue-eyed guy.
Oh, shucks, man. I got to watch my language. Oh, shucks, Dave. You're probably being probed. Anybody else out there got blue or green eyes? Tell me about it?
You know what? I can tell you right now, from what I know from my own situation, I know I've been taken. My wife gets taken a couple times a month. Our little guy, who's 3, has been taken twice.
Oh, yeah. Way more than that, my friend. But,
oh, yeah. And the two daughters have not. But one is very, very intuitive, and the other one has a relationship with the fairy folk that are in the yards of our property.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you some little awakening lessons here, probably aggravate you a little bit. All abductions happen pre-birth, all of them. Doesn't matter who they are. If you're part of the family line, if for some reason somebody back 100 years, 500 years, 5,000 years, 500,000 years ago were taken in your family line, they take everybody in your family line. The only time they stop abducting people is if for some reason they deem you not on the path they're moving on or not useful for whatever reason. There is no stopping them. There's no way you're going to ever stop an abduction. You can pray, you can jump up and down, you can do whatever they want. They are far, far, not just physically advanced, but mentally advanced. They're way, way beyond us. And I think where most contactees make the mistake is they identify with their experience. But you can only judge an alien experience by a human mind, and it's really hard to do, since really, if you start thinking in a spiritual or enlightened way, they're eons ahead of us. There's no real comparisons. It's like when people tell me, "Well, I was on the other side with the aliens." No, you weren't, because your consciousness level is just not going to get nowhere near that. I mean, you're talking about races 1 billion years old versus a race that's 100 million years old. Well, not even. I'm sorry, 2 million years old. I apologize for that. So there's just no. It's trying to explain to an African who's never seen a human before what an airplane is, or what a laptop is, or what a cell phone is. There's just no reference point. There's no way to identify. There's no way to make them understand, because there's nothing they've ever seen before that can even lead in that direction. And that's where a lot of contactees make their mistakes, because they're trying to identify a situation that really is outside of their realm of identification. So what happens is, like everything else, you know how humans see faces and fires? So your mind actually tries to put the pieces together, so it becomes a scenario from one place to the next place to the next place. So what we've learned, and I always hate to say this because contactees get so mad at me, but basically about 80-85% of everything in a contactee's head is complete utter nonsense and total BS. It's either between cover memories, or looped memories, I should say, because they don't really use cover memories anymore. Between looped memories, round memories, and just stuff that your mind has tried to put together to make sense out of what's happening to you, a good chunk of what you think is wrong. These days, we have abduction criteria going back 35 years now. Just in the Gray questionnaire alone, 17,000 people have taken this. So we have done a comparison study on that 17,000 plus the over 15,000 cases in the abduction file. So it's 32,000 Gray cases investigated. There's so many commonalities and similarities that it gives you a path. It actually lets you see both from the past to the future. And here's another thing most people don't realize, especially with the Grays and the reptilians. those abductors, the ones that are taking you right now, are the same ones that took your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother 55,000 years ago. Same one. Deal with that one. It's not. Their lifespans are far more than ours are, and the funny part is because ours are so short, we see things in fleeting moments. Theirs is so long they don't. 100 years to them, well, it's probably like 2 or 3 days to us. It's just not the same thing. They don't even view it the same way. Their goals are much longer, much further stretched out than what we realize. The amount of agendas going on are much greater than I think any of the researchers really pay any attention to. But going back to the basic abduction stuff. So what happens is, Dave, they took your mom when you were preborn. She was abducted. They checked you out. They put her back. Probably somewhere within 6 months of you being born, they took you again. They probably took you several times up until around age 6 or 7. They probably slacked off around then a little bit, but they were still taking you. When you hit puberty, the type of experiences you started having were going to be different. Those are the ones that they block out the most because those are usually the ones that are the harshest. They range from different types of breeding programs to different type of endurance stuff to even a lot of off-craft, off-world type of stuff on board the ships mainly. When you hit 30, 31, 32, it changes again. What really happens is at different points in different people's lives, they reach a point where ET allows them to start to remember. And you can remember, you may start to remember, it may start when you're 1, it may start when you're 35, it may start when you're 50. There's no way of really knowing because it has more to do with the individual and what they can actually handle than it does anything else. Because humans are fragile creatures. We like to make ourselves into these beings but we're not. We're fragile. In the grand scheme of the universe, we're extremely fragile. So, and our egos are extremely fragile. When you're taken, it's one of the funny things about aliens, even when you think about some of the good stuff they might be doing, when they come and take you without calling you up and say, hey, Mr. Scott, we're going to be in your neck of the woods up there in Canada land, and we're going to swing by, and we're going to take you and your wife and the kids, and we're going to take you for a ride. We're going to do a little checkup, a little probing, a little investigation work. Nothing too bad, and then we're going to put you back and kind of wash most of the memory. Okay, that's different, but that's not what they do. They just say, well, you know what? We're going to be in Dave's area, zap his ass on board the craft, do a round of experiments, put him back. Sometimes they'll give you, they'll import you with decent knowledge. Sometimes they import you with not so good knowledge. I know a lot of people think they're above lying or above a lot of things. They're really not. And everybody always says, they don't have emotions. Yes, they do. And the reptilians and humans have nasty emotions. And what I mean by that is they can be loving, sweet, and kind, and they can be vicious and mean, just like we are. Out of all the races that we deal with in the abduction research, the reptilians are by far, or I should say we're the closest to them. We're more related to them in any of the ways than the other races. We act more like them. We're just basically more like them, especially with the way we treat our children and our families. To them, family and family lines and genetic memory is very, very important. But anyway, I digress. Going backwards again. So here you are, Dave. You're on this timeline. They're taking you. They always take you from birth on up until they decide that you're not useful no more, or for some reason it's just time for you to stop. Maybe it's causing you to have mental issues or other problems. So sometimes they'll stop, but there's no way to make them stop unless they think it is. But anyway, you're at this point. You start remembering this. For you, and I tell this to all contactees, what was the thing that woke you up? What was it? What did you see something? Did you experience something? Did you have a dream?
I did. I can tell you the exact time it happened. It was 7:45 p.m. on December 13th, 2011. I had a house full of people. We were celebrating Christmas 2 weeks early for my daughter because she was going on a cruise with her mother's parents over the holidays. And I walked into my kitchen from my living room to give my mother a hug because my parents had announced that they were leaving, and I had a house full of people, about 20, 25 people. And when I walked into my kitchen, which was connected to my television room, where everybody was watching the hockey game, go figure, we're Canadian, so I might as well throw the old adage in there. You know,
I like a good hockey game.
I noticed, though, Joe, that everybody in the room was standing still, the TV was silent, and when I made eye contact with my mother, I saw blackness in her eyes with white pupils looking at me, and I knew right at that moment that I was looking into the eyes of the angel of death. And 3 hours later, I channeled him. Not knowing anything about channeling, not knowing anything on what channeling was, never even heard of the term or the word. Anything to do with channel to me was on the television. And I ended up having a 30-minute conversation through me. My wife was taking it all down of why I saw him in my mother's eyes, and he told me how to keep my mother alive. I followed every point that he said. My mother, to this day, is still alive.
So what do you think triggered that? And the reason I'm asking this is, and I want to clarify before we even go any further, so you know personally where I'm headed with this. People have spirit guides, right?
Absolutely,
well,
yes.
Through deep hypnosis, we found out that a lot of times the Indian spirit guide or the wolf or the dragon or whatever turns out to be an extraterrestrial. Okay? And we've also found out over the years that they will appear to people as different things and guide them out of safe places or into safe places or even in ways to heal them. We have 2 cases in California where these women were in stage 4 cancer that are both still alive today. And we're going back 20 years. Stage 4. Back then they couldn't. Stage 4 meant, you're dead in how many ever days you had. I want to put that across because it's hard to get this into people's heads. ET has a way of manipulating us almost on a matrix type level. We just don't understand the psychic abilities they truly have. Matter of fact, by the way, if you're listening tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we do not even consider you to be an abductee or a contactee if you're not empathic. It's actually required by the organization to be considered as someone who's been contacted, because ET is not contacting anybody that's not at least empathic. It's probably one of their requirements, actually. It's something we learned at a very early time. They are looking for people that they can manipulate their minds, they can enter their minds, they can do all kinds of, and by the way, not all of this is hostile. I know it sounds like that, but I don't want people to get a completely hostile attitude about this. So all of this is going on. They can track all of this, but the key point is they can make you feel, see, or think anything that they really want to. Most of the time, people think aliens are shapeshifters. Well, physically shapeshifting takes a level of energy and a type of design, maybe along a plasma of an energy base. So maybe the light beings physically shapeshift. The Greys really don't. Neither do reptilians or the humans. And we found that out at an early age because people would tell us all the time, oh, we were surrounded by Greys. There'd be like 5, 6 people there, and there'd be 6, 7 Greys there. Well, the problem is the way they described the Greys. They were describing them so differently that you were like, well, wait, it's the same Gray. How can it be different? Or a lot of times you'd have 2 Greys, and each one person would describe the Gray entirely different. You're like, well, what's going on here? And a lot of times they wouldn't even describe them as Greys. They would describe them as weird type beings and stuff. So we know that the Gray has the ability to get into your head and make you see whatever it wants you to see, whatever you want to feel. It's one of the things they talk about in the tests that go on from puberty to about 32. It's some of the ways they do it is actually physically get in your head. It's also the way they do what we call non-physical abductions, where they basically just take the essence of your consciousness, but they leave the body behind. It's basically a matrix effect is what it is. And it's scary when you talk about it, and there's a lot that goes on with that, but that also leads to a lot of the other programs they're working on. People talk about the different types of bodies they see on board the ships and types of tubes, rows and rows of bodies standing, and that's so they can upload consciousness to it. As far as I understand, the 3 major races that abduct basically don't have any lifespans because any limited lifespans because they have the physical ability to upload their consciousness to a new body. And it doesn't have to be a cloned body, just a body. Usually grown from your own DNA as like your own child or something like that, where you can inhabit it. It's a technology beyond us, but it's not a technology we don't understand, and it's not a technology we're not working on. Remember, we've been trying to figure out how to upload consciousness to computers for 2 decades now, and have had some success with it. And we already know how to grow bodies, so hell, we can do that as well. But it's hard to make people understand that, there's not a bunch of random craziness going on with all these abductions. This stuff is quite a bit more focused than most people realize it. And the reason why they or the government don't rule in all the people saying all the different stuff is because it makes the field sound crazy. It takes away credibility from the field, and it makes less people want to look into it because some of the stories are so outlandish that you're like, wow, really? Okay. Just put this into perspective for everyone listening tonight. I don't know how many of y'all have heard the aliens are evil, the aliens are good, the aliens are here to enlighten us, the aliens are here to enslave us. Okay, let me explain this. They've been here anywhere from 25,000 to 2 or 3 million years. We don't know for sure. We know they've been here a long time. Any time along that time, any time in the last 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, it would have been quite easy for those to take us over. Even with just one spacecraft, they could have conquered the whole world. If they wanted to enlighten our species, we should be beyond anything. War should be over with. Famine should be over with. After just 1,000 years of them being here, we should be so enlightened that we don't even have these kind of thoughts in our heads anymore. But we're not. We're not conquered, we're not destroyed, and we're not enlightened. I tell this to people all the time. You have to judge the aliens like you judge anybody else by their actions. Not by their words, but by their actions. Look at what they do. Does this planet look enlightened to you? Take a good look around. Last time I checked, it looked like we were about to start World War III. That's y'all's Canadians' fault, by the way. I'm blaming it on y'all.
Why are you blaming it on us? Why are you blaming it on us?
It just sounds like a good
Son
idea.
of a gun. Yeah, the whole blame Canada aspect, that's got to go out the door. It really does. That hurts our feelings. And the worst part about it is you're saying this humorlessly, but me as a Canadian, all I want to do is apologize and say sorry.
No. Actually, I got a lot of friends in Canada, but I asked a good friend of mine. We're just gonna call her Cougar. A long time ago, she lives way up in northern Canada. Like, first time I met her, I said, it's winter down where I live in the bayou, and it was 68 degrees outside, middle of January. I said, so how is it up there by you? Oh, it's about 44 below. And I'm like, why are you living there? I said, I would have already packed my stuff up and been headed anywhere but there. But you see, over there in BC, in Vancouver, British Columbia, it's, that's where Alfred Weber and all them live. It's great over there, man. It's a beautiful part of the country. Beautiful part of the planet, for that matter. All up in there, it's just really, really pretty. And it doesn't seem to get as bad as weather as other places up there.
Oh man, I moved from the Vancouver area about a year and a half ago. I moved up into central British Columbia, and we topped out at minus 36 degrees Celsius this year. That was cold. That's the coldest I've ever been in. Usually around Vancouver, you get the odd -5, -10. Every odd winter, about every 10, 12 years, it would drop to -15 or 20 for one day or two, and you're thinking, man, that's cold. I had never experienced cold until I moved up here. But I tell you, I look around my area now. There's probably within an hour's drive of me about 500 lakes I can fish in. There's Bigfoot everywhere. There is UFO sightings everywhere. Miriam Delicado. I just happened to move to the town where her abduction happened.
Yeah, she's an interesting interview, guys. She's in this Contact the Abduction study we got running right now. In 2012, I think it was, or 2011, I did a series of shows on UFO Undercover 20. I did the top 20 known abductees at the time, and we did 3 panel shows. It was very good stuff. We're rerunning it right now. Is what we're doing with it. But she's a lot of fun to interview, and you can kind of tease with her too to get her to get in some other stuff. But I actually enjoyed interviewing. And that's a beautiful part of the country up there too.
Oh yeah,
it's But see, that's what I did. I got out of the city. My business is in the city, maintenance solutions, but I live up on the Gulf Coast now, and it's beautiful up here. You walk out my back door, I got a bayou, I got a boat launch out of my back door, my dock, and my bayou's right there, and a little sunset over there, right? It's just, I think the Gulf is maybe, 75 yards, 100 yards from my bayou, so it's just beautiful, and it's peaceful, it's relaxing, and there's a lot of UFO sightings here. It's a hot matter of fact, there are some, I might as well tell you, but these are 2 really good ones. One, me and my wife and my son experienced, my son's 31 now, so this would have been about 26, 27 years ago, not more than a block from where I'm living right now. we were sitting out there, and we seen it looked like something glowing out in the water. I don't know, maybe 300-400 yards off the coast. And we were on the beach, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And I said, no, I don't know. We're watching, and my son starts this crap about, oh, here comes my bug-eyed friends. And I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about? I mean, he's, 6 at the time, 5. I'm thinking, little dude, come on. Not a good time to be messing with that. And then you start to see the water looks like it's mounded, and it's got this weird greenish white kind of foamy look to it. And then you see it, the water dome starts to rise even more, and it's starting to look like a wave, but it's a round wave. And then it gets up, and you can see the water start to run off the edges of this thing, and it's got this bluish greenish glow as the water runs off of it. And the damn thing just sits there for a minute or two, just hovering, and then just started drifts over us. We're pretty sure there's some missing time, but nothing came up under hypnosis. But still, it seemed like there was something weird going on. And then I just drifted away. So I was like, wow, okay, that was just crazy. Well, I don't know. Here we are, 15 years later. I get a phone call from 2 state troopers. They're sitting on the beach. You know how they park side by side with each other talking. And as they're talking, all of a sudden you hear one of them start going, what the bleep, what the bleep, what the bleep is that? And he's describing the same thing I just described to you, almost to the T. He's almost sitting in the same spot we were. So he turns his, smart dude, turns his video camera towards it. So he's got a video camera. He's trying to watch it. Well, nothing came up on the camera, but luckily his partner turned his camera, and a good chunk of it made it onto that camera. So we got to see it. It was basically the same thing. It came up, it came out the water, it was glowing, it floated over the 2 squad cars, and then drifted down over Beach Boulevard Highway and then just disappeared. And that's another weird thing about UFOs. You never really see them streak off. You always hear people say, oh, and then it disappeared, like a doorway opening and closing. Not so much like I went into warp drive. More like the door opened, I went through it, and it closed behind me. More like type of gate travel or something, or some type of travel where they're just moving out of dimension or even out of time for that matter. But whatever it is, it's not like it's streaking across the sky. Also, too, and I tell this to people all the time, more than likely, if you've seen a UFO, I mean a real UFO, because unidentified flying object can be any damn thing, but if you've really seen what you would consider to be an extraterrestrial craft, more than likely you've been taken. We learned a long time ago that UFO sightings are not by accident. These craft are very sophisticated. And think about this, guys. Even if they did do it by accident, they could easily wipe it out of your head with pretty much a thought. So the fact that you've seen it and remembered it suggests that they wanted you to. These are what we call trigger memories. These are things left behind to either trigger you that you have just been taken or just been put back. Sorry. I don't know where that English came from. But they're really what they are, the trigger memories. It's to let you know something happened. See, people don't realize, but ET wants you to remember, but a lot of the stuff that goes on, especially in your 20s, is pretty harsh. So, they block out most of that, and they don't really want you to remember because it's not really nice, and it's not something a sentient species should be doing to another one. But after that, once you hit your 30s, 40s, 50s, and even 60s, context changes greatly. It becomes much more enlightened. They let you get much more involved. You can be involved in the agendas. You can help out. We talk about communicators and keepers. These are people who work with the aliens. They're usually 30, 40, 50, 60. But they work with them. And they're the ones who really tend to have the true knowledge about information, what's going on, how crafts operate, types of drive systems, things like that. These are the people who tend to have it. And guess what? Who they are? They're the ones that tend to get, oh my God, military abducted. For the government to actually abduct someone, they have to know about you. Somewhere along the line, they had to find out that you were a contactee and that you were an advanced contactee that were worth abducted in the first damn place. That's what I'm saying. There's always so many misnomers that are put out there in the ufology field to just, make people crazy, make you think things aren't the way they are. But there's been a lot of abduction research done, and this isn't like ufology. Abduction research is not the same. Inside the abduction field, there's a 75% consensus that this is happening and these things are going on, and there is things that we expect to see and hear in every abduction, every one. So it's different in the fact that there seems to be a much tighter consensus than what we have when we're talking about, I saw a UFO. And frankly, I'm not sure what you're going to learn from a red light in this night sky. I mean, people write to me all the time, Joe, guess what I saw? It was this weird green flashing light. And I always write back to them and tell them what to look for and what they should be expecting. But frankly, there's nothing I can do with it. I can add it to the thing that such and such seen a green flashing light in this area, and I can check to see if there was any abductions to correlate any sightings. Because these days, something else we do is anytime we hear about a sighting, is we try to find out if there's abductions in the area, just to prove the point that where there's sightings, there's abductions. And if you are seeing them, you were probably taken, which really hacks off a lot of people and makes them mad. And it limits to everybody else can't see them. I said, well, think about it like this. Mexico City was in 1997. UFO hovers over the city for 24 hours. More than 1 million people reported seeing this UFO. There was hours and hours of videotape, hours and hours of, tons and tons of pictures and tons of videotape, and this thing just sat there. Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, there are 22 million people in Mexico City, but only 1 million seen it. Why? What? Everybody else was not paying attention? No one else seen the thing hovering up in the damn sky? New York City. One ambassador and 2 Secret Service guys sees a woman being taken from a building in New York City. New York City, 8 million people. No one else saw it? Yeah, even better for y'all. Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix light sightings. Maybe, if we're lucky, 50,000 people rode in and saw the Phoenix lights. How many years in Phoenix? 4 million people live there? What the hell? Was everybody else had their eyes closed? See, this is what I'm saying. This proves a point that not everyone can see UFOs. It just doesn't work that way. If they were, the totals, what we would see would be much higher. Because just Phoenix alone, there should have been at least 1 million people report seeing it. New York, 2 or 3 million people should have seen it. Come on. Mexico City, 10 million people should have saw the thing. The big black triangle that hovered over Brazil for a day and a half, people reporting it all over, cities all over the place. It crossed a population size of at least 10, 15 million people. And what, 20,000 reported it? You do the math. Something's definitely screwy with this. So by knowing that, we now know that, look, no, not everybody can see UFOs because they don't want you to see them. Most of us now believe that you have to have been taken. It's like being exposed to the craft allows you to see them, or being exposed to the knowledge allows you to see them. Whatever you want to believe, whatever you want to think, but it does seem to work that way. And it does make a lot of my ufologist friends mad because they're like, well, that means I could never see a UFO. Well, it's not my fault you're not special. What can I say?
How close has been your closest encounter with an extraterrestrial craft?
You want me to tell you the truth? I don't know if I tell you the truth. They might come kill you, man. I don't know if that's a good thing to tell you now.
I can tell you point blank. Mine was within 150 yards.
Well, let's see. The one on the beach, we walked down the ramps, I don't know, 8 feet. I have to tell you about the surfing aliens, but the thing about it is there's been sightings, like one of the ones that MUFON investigated us for was a sighting in Navarre Beach, Florida, where this thing landed on the beach. And basically what they were doing were walking everybody in. It was like they were taking them, transporting them out of the hotels in the local areas, putting them right down the beach, and then walking everybody up. I don't know why they weren't just putting them in a craft. I didn't understand that part, but they were walking them up into the craft. And we're talking hundreds, maybe even a couple of thousand people. But, a lot of people remembered, a lot of it didn't. Then that launched a whole new investigation that we found that a lot of people who go to Pensacola, Florida, Navarre Beach, Destin, lose whole weeks. I mean, literally talked to more than 100 people that went down there that just didn't even have pictures down there 8, 9, 10 days. Didn't even have pictures of their vacation. No one seen them in like 5, 6 days at the hotels and stuff. It was crazy, crazy stuff. We know there's a big base down there. We know that right outside of Navarre. There's a base. Matter of fact, if you're brave enough, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you right where it's at. There's a base called Eglin Air Force Base down there. And if you go to Navarre Beach, You drive to the end of Navarre Beach. It goes right up against the base in Eglin. If you cross the fence right there, you can walk around it if you walk in the ocean. Walk down there. Be careful because it's also a nudist beach for the military. But anyway, you walk down there it's about a quarter mile. You're going to see a building just sitting there, just some brick building in the middle of a sand dune in the middle of nowhere. Just walk there, walk on the right side of it, and you're going to see a doorway. If you open a doorway and you look, there's going to be a stairwell going down, I don't know, probably 9 or 10 stories down, floors down. Just go for a walk and see what you find. It's there. It's been there for a long time. It's not even that unknown of a secret. Most of the major ufologists know it's there. They just don't like to talk about it because for some reason the government doesn't seem to cover it up. In other words,
are you saying, Joe? Are you saying that there's an area on an Air Force base that you could sneak into to see a craft?
Not just a craft. You can see the aliens. You can see abductions going on. Now, don't get me wrong. You're going to probably get snatched, and God knows what they're going to do to you. But they'll put you back. It's not like they're going to keep you. We've had other people we've told about going down there, and they've come out and told us basically the same stories we've told other people. It's there. It's available for anybody who's brave enough to go down there and do it. It's not the only place. I can. If you really want contact, I can tell you places. Good people. We've been doing this a long time, and you got to remember, people write to me daily about where they see things, where they're experiencing things, and how things go on. And I also get the advantage of our other directors in seeing things that repeat. So we know that sometimes something might actually happen in this area at a particular time. So it gives us, kind of an edge. We've been doing this a long, long time. MUFON's really not an abduction organization. They're a sightings organization. ICAR is really an abduction-based organization. And to put the short of it is, like I said, we did 5,000 cases with MUFON. Then everything that David Jacobs, John Mack, Bud Hopkins, everything they had, everything I could find from Mary Rodwell, Yvonne Smith, Suzanne Hansen, the whole bunch of them, we took all of that. And then we took our cases and then we advertised it for, since 1998, so for 21 years for ICAR. And until we reached where we are today. And the way the cases work is it's like 27,000 investigated UFO abduction cases. And then there's the 7 major projects. Those numbers are actually separate from the abduction cases because some of the people answering those questions are actually some of the people in the abduction role, but a lot of the people answering them are people who have heard us on like radio shows like this one and who have gone over and taken the questionnaires. See, ladies and gentlemen, we have quite a few questionnaires over there because our job is to do a comparison study, a long term. Now, remember, these projects have been going on. The shortest one has been going on for 7 years. The longest one has been going on for 14 years. The gray and reptilian studies are both 14 years old. So we have been having people write to us and track their encounters with gray and reptilian aliens for 14 years. And then you combine all those studies together along with the abduction cases we already have. It paints a very interesting picture to what's going on. Just some things I'll share with y'all that I've had to change over the years. One, initially we thought abductions were a third reptilians, a third grays, and a third human aliens. Come to find out, we were wrong. It's about 60-65% gray, and you can split the reptilians and humans half together. Now, earlier in time, it would have flip-flopped because the grays weren't actually here then, but the humans and the reps were. But we'll get into that later. So right there, you know that first off, these aliens have been here for this long, and you can see kind of a pattern coming forward. And damn, now my thought went right out my head. Old age, people. Sorry, old age.
It happens. I get there too.
It's
well, while you're thinking of that thought, we got about 4.5 minutes here before we have to take our first breakout of the night. Do you believe then that there is a difference between the countries on where you're being abducted to what kind of abduction is happening? And the reason why I ask that, Joe, is a lot of the reports I get out of the U.S. seem to be very, very malevolent in one way or another, yet most of the encounters I hear about here in Canada are of a benevolent nature. And I'm wondering, and I can't put my finger on it, why, what you think would be the reasoning for that.
Well, it's it's kind of sort of more than likely Americans are going to be more willing to talk about what happened bad, whereas Canadians are going to be more willing to talk about what happens good. And what I mean by that is some American guys may have an issue with saying something about a peace, love, and light experience, even though they had it, because they do have them. We hear about them all the time, but they may be a little bit more standoffish about talking about it. What we've really found out is that really for the most part, the good versus bad, it pretty much happens on an even keel. Really, when it comes to the good stuff, it's more about what you've been prepped for and what they're teaching you to understand than it is anything else. And they do it for everybody worldwide. It doesn't really matter. It's just some people take it easier, and some people will feel more comfortable with the aliens teaching them certain things, so they're going to report it just that way. And I really do feel like that in a lot of ways. Canadians feel a little bit more in touch with who they are. Americans still feel the need to kind of, look at Trump with North Korea just for a glimpse. That's true for the nation for the most part. We're just, we're kind of like, even if something's good, they're still kind of cranky, we'll say. There you go. And I think that's really what it has to do with more than anything else, because when we go to the numbers of it and what we see actually happen in the contacts, it seems to be about the same all around. But what we have found is there does seem to be zones and areas where certain types of aliens tend to, abduct more often than other areas. And there also seems to be, I guess you would call them, to put this in perspective, the UK, the majority of cases we get out of the UK are what I call old school abductions. Drag you out, through the wall, up to the spacecraft, probe you, kick you around, spit on you, throw you down, bring you back. Basically hostile cases. They're like the control group versus what's going on the rest of the planet. It's a very strange thing. They really are like a control group. And then we found that there's places, and not just this country, but other countries that have null zones where there's no sightings and no abductions. Plus, if you are a contactee and you can find one of these null zones for at least a little while, you can get that feeling of whatever that is in the back of your head out. Because if you're a contactee of any kind or abductee of any kind, whoever is taking you always keeps a permanent link. So it's always something in the back of your head. Some people, or in the front of your head, some people experience it differently, but it's always there. It's their way of watching you. That's why when people talk to me about channeling aliens, there's no really reason for them to. If the Gray wanted to speak through you, Dave, he'd just say, "Hey, Dave, guess what? This is John the Gray, and I'm talking to you, buddy." You'd be like, "Whoa, what the hell?" It's not so much channeling it's just he's just in your head telling you what the hell's going on. It's kind of funny, really, but it's kind of scary too. They keep a permanent link, and so they don't need implants to track you. They track you through your DNA.
For sure. Joe, I'm going to get you to hold on here momentarily because we are going to be stepping out for a break here in just a few seconds. Joe Montaldo is our guest tonight, the owner of the United Public Radio Network and the president and starter of ICAR, International Community for Alien Research. 27,000 researchers or experiencers that have checked through. If you've been an experiencer, make sure you go over to ICAR's website, icar.com, to check it out today. You're listening to Space Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to the reporters.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Hey, this is Canadian paranormal investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up, enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio Live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. My bags are packed. I'm going to find my Zen and my Chi in the wilderness. But don't worry, we got Spaced Out Weekend, Saturday and Sunday night with Elizabeth Anglin and Uncle Jimbo James Tyson at spacedoutradio.com, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern side. You know what? I actually took my dog outside during the break. And it's bloody well snowing again. It's snowing. It's April 14th, for God's sakes. What the hell is it snowing for? Guess I'm packing my parka for my trip into the wilderness for the weekend. We want to welcome in our terrestrial radio stations, United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We are also live in Noonan, Georgia on WQEE 99 Rock the Key, the home of The Walking Dead. Good to have you with us for your nighttime entertainment. We're also live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Bourgeoisification. Bourgeoisification is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to get your questions and comments to me live during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and Stitcher. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You can read up on the Encounter Online, our brand new news section. And if you head on over to patreon.com, you can become a patron of Spaced Out Radios for as low as $1 a month. Joe Montaldo, president of ICAR and the owner of the United Public Radio Network, is talking all things UFO and ET abduction tonight. Joe, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave. Look, people, I'm not trying to scare y'all or nothing, by the way. I know somebody texted me a minute ago, "What, are you trying to scare us?" I'm like, no. I ain't got anything scary yet, Lord. We get to the scary stuff. I don't know if y'all want to hear that. Who believes in ghosts? You believe in ghosts, Dave?
I do. And you know what? My yard is haunted.
You know, I got a theory for you. I love to do this to paranormal people. I got a question for you. You know what dimensional bleed through is, right?
Yes, I do.
You know how people sometimes will say they see a parent after they die, but sometimes they'll say stuff like, "Oh, I saw my dad, but he looked a little strange, or he was wearing a weird red shirt, or he had blonde hair or something." It's probably dimensional bleed through. Probably not even dead. It's probably, I imagine, the stress of losing someone is enough to allow you to open the veil to the next closest universe to you. So when that happens, you're opening the veil, you're in the same room, everything's happening in the same place. The only difference is your dad might actually be standing in front of you instead of being dead. And for that instant moment, how many ever seconds it lasts, you're actually seeing a live person, not a dead one. Just something to think about, because we do know stress can push the veil limits and make them open. So just something to think about, people. And by the way, if anybody writes to Dave, all right, I'm not saying that every ghost is dimensional bleed through. I'm just saying it's possible that a lot of what we consider to be ghostly apparitions could be something as dimensional bleed through. I just like to add a little science to everything, people. It makes life roll along a little better. There's room to believe, but you need a little science to go with it. What do you think, Dave?
Oh, absolutely. The science goes everywhere. And, sometimes we have people thinking their opinion is science, but we got to see through those.
Yeah, you do. You really do. Somebody asked me, why do you spend so much time doing comparison studies? I'm like, well, I'm not the only one. There's other members of the organization. It's just, it's the only way we're going to ever get to what's really going on. Because when you go to any place or any conference and you talk to a bunch of abductees, no one tells you the same thing. You really don't even find the same stuff until you start regressing people or find advanced contactees. When you find advanced contactees, it's different. Keepers, communicators like that, their basic experiences are the same. There's a lot of different stuff in the experiences, meaning what they're learning and what they're teaching. But the basic from birth to where they are experience is the same. So why would aliens do so many crazy different style abductions if they were actually trying to figure something out or teach something or just basically keep track of the human race? Because let's be honest, if they've been here more than 10,000 years abducting us, what the hell have they got left to learn? Come on. We're going to master the human body in less time than that, so I know the aliens could. So what is it they're actually after? What is it they're actually doing? People tell me all the time, the Greys are trying to make new bodies, or the Greys are trying to get emotions, or look, people, the Greys like who they are, okay? They are basically the peacekeepers of the galaxy. They work directly for the light beings. They don't work for the reptilians. They don't work for the humans. They work for the light beings. And out of all the races out there, they're probably in the top 10 most advanced. Come on, their ships, they grow their ships. The ships have their own food that grows on board that feeds both the Grey and the damn ship. That's technology far beyond what the reptilians and the humans have. Plus, their mental abilities are far beyond any of the other races out there. And then people forget, not all Greys are 3 foot tall. Some Greys are 5 foot tall. Some Greys are 7 foot tall. And we're pretty sure the Queen's around 9 foot tall. So it's not, it's not what it is. And none of them are Grey. That's the worst part. That's the really sad part of Greys. That's how you know when someone's BSing you right off the bat. Well, I saw a Grey, and it was charcoal gray, no such thing.
The first one I saw was actually tan in color.
Yeah, well, they got browns and tan ones. And what's weird about the races is, the types of, we like to call them blue, white, and brown. And the reason why is when a Grey has just fed a blue Grey, he's almost like a cobalt blue color. And then as the food leaves his body, because they absorb it through some type of osmosis through his skin, they actually absorb it. So when it goes, the skin becomes almost translucent. So I guess that's where some people get the Grey from, because when they become translucent, maybe at a distance they look kind of gray, but they also have the white ones, and when they do it, their skin looks a different color, almost a ghostly white. And then the browns can be anywhere from a dark brown to a pale tan cream color, and that's because of the way their food is ingested. They also come in different sizes, and it's not necessarily by color, but it's by size. And authority seems to be based on size. The 5 foot the 3 foot basically seem to be the guys that run around, do all kind of BS. And there's also they got 3 foot Greys, and then they got 3 foot Greys that are half Grey, half robot. So, and then they've got the 5 foot Greys, or the 5 foot ones, which seem to be over them, and then there seems to be the 7 foot ones, which seem to be over everybody except for the Queen. And I don't want to say it's set up like a beehive, because I think there's more than one female, but it definitely seems to be different. And they just grow bodies, and first off, their bodies can live, from what we understand, a long time, a couple of million years, and when they're ready, they just transfer into a new body. So there's no real anything for them about how long they can live. As long as they have access to a body, I guess basically they can live as long as the universe exists. But, and that's another thing. In the beginning, people used to always say that the Greys work for the reptilians or the Greys work for the humans. We found that none of that was true. Matter of fact, we found out for the most part, the reptilians and humans are scared of the damn Greys. When you hear about military abduction cases, when they're all present, they'll tell you, even the military abductors will tell you, when the Greys walk in, the reptilians and humans tend to put their heads down or look away. They don't make direct eye contact. They seem to have some sort of fear of the Greys. And see, in the beginning, we thought it was the opposite. And people get mad at me when ICAR changes stance, but let's be honest. If you're too rigid to change something after you've learned that you're wrong, then why are you even in the field in the first damn place? That's what's always bothered me about ufology in general. You can go back 50 years and not one case has changed in 50 years. You mean to tell me that we haven't learned something that may have changed someone's idea? That's why I rewrote the Betty and Barney Hill case, because of the data. At some point, you have to realize you made a mistake, or new data suggests that something else was going on. This case, we found that no, the Greys seem to be much more dominant and much more in control, and they seem to be much different than we actually thought they were. And then we found that they have organic spacecraft, and they can interface directly with their craft. Their craft itself can become anything that they want it to be inside when they're doing anything. All the equipment comes out of the walls by thought. It just forms. That's technology far beyond any of the other races out there. So, except some maybe the higher forms, but much more than really, as far as the Greys are concerned, the reptilians and humans aren't that much more advanced than we are. Now, in all fairness, they are far more advanced than we are, probably 100, 200 million years more advanced than we are. But the point being, to the Greys, it's about the same damn thing. They look at them as stupid children just like they look at us. They're like, look, you two, you are no better than the damn humans, or you can't even get along half the time. They seem to be the peacekeepers. And they were probably sent here when they found out that the Greys and reptilians were on the same the humans and reptilians were on the same damn planet. They probably sent them over here to prevent some kind of another interstellar war. Then, no one ever stopped to think that Earth had reptiles on it before us. Everyone always assumes that the reptilians come from a different world. Why? Never heard of the Pravda map? 120 million year old resource map? Seems like there was an alien race here before us. Oh, I shouldn't say an alien race. It was probably the race that lived here. Reptilians probably evolved on Earth, probably left back when whatever catastrophe happened in the solar system 60 million years ago, because that's when they think Mars and Venus also went catastrophes around the same time Earth did. So they had to leave. Matter of fact, they probably came back and found what they would consider a human infestation. Somewhere along the line, they were fighting with the human aliens, which were here mining and taking resources and doing other stuff. And there must have been a compromise, because it seems like the reptilians were stealing the slave people and breeding with them, and those people being born were different. And the fact that we were different, they were self-aware. The aliens before, or the humans before them, weren't really self-aware in the way we think of it. They had understood stuff like procreate, plow the fields, but they never asked the question, why should I do that, or why am I here, or anything along those lines. That seemed to come after the reptilians had bred with them. And we know for a fact, ladies and gentlemen, that every human on this planet has a reptilian section in his and her brain. So it seems like that they're the ones that gave us sentient. Before that, we just seemed to have been a slave race for the human-type aliens that were here doing whatever they were doing.
I have a question for you coming from the Space Out Radio chat room on our website.
Man.
Raven is asking, Joe, can someone start to experience contact, in your opinion, through or in a dream state after an initial sighting?
Yes. Actually, usually what happens for most people is contact usually manifests itself in some type of dream. It'll usually start off, it'll be a dream, part of the experience usually, or a taste of the experience. And then the dream almost becomes, I don't want to call reoccurring, because it kind of evolves as it reoccurs. But that's what allows you to initially question what happened. You're like, whoa, this dream seems so real. It'll make you look for marks on your body, or look for things that may confirm that something may have happened to you. And the way the aliens do it now is they loop your memories. So what you need to find out is whatever memory you have for that night, you need to analyze it to see if maybe it was a planted memory. Because, they like to take things that are mundane, things that you do all the time, and loop it so you don't question it. But sometimes on the nights of events, you're doing something else that might be slightly out of skew from what you originally do. And if you can remember that, then it'll let you know that there was a contact that happened. But even that, if you can't, but if you truly feel something did, find a good hypnotherapist. But I'm warning you, hypnotherapy needs to be done by, frankly, there may be 6 people in the whole field that I would trust to do it. Just find someone reputable. Make sure you go over what you're going to be asked. Matter of fact, the very first way you should do it is go to the experience date, have the person ask you about the experience date. So let's say you had experience in July 15th of 2016, So the person should ask you something like, well, what happened to you, Raven, on this date? And then that should be allowed to flow out. After all that information flows both backwards and forward, you take the tapes, you stop the regression, you bring everybody out, you take the tapes, you listen to everything, you form a line, you formulate your next line of questioning based on what you heard in that tape without using words like contact, extraterrestrial, alien spacecraft, UFOs, because you don't want to implant memories. So you want the person to remember it on their own. We do like a picture form of regression where you're allowed to pick the picture and blow it up and experience it that way, so it makes it a little easier. But that's the easiest way to find out. But if you can find a contactee support group, we got one on paltalk.com, but where you can talk to other contactees, a lot of times the memory will come out on its own if you work at it. And don't let people beat it down. Even if you tell somebody and they tell you crazy, don't let them beat you down, because it's important. If you're starting to remember, it's more than likely you showed some type of interest that the ETs think that you could possibly be useful down the line for some reason or another. So you don't really, if you can avoid messing that up, it would be a good thing, because you learn more and you understand more. And at least you kind of become part of what's going on. And it kind of gives you a different feel overall of the contact, because really they are still taking people against their will and doing things to them that they shouldn't be doing without their permission. So again, always judge the aliens by their actions. Until they come down and say, hey Dave, we think you're cute, why don't you come take a ride? They still don't have our best interest at heart. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is not about humans. I know, because we're the ones being contacted, we're being the ones messed with. This is about the alien races that are here. They're not trying to improve themselves through using human DNA. Okay, frankly, they think we're de-evolved from them. They're here for whatever reasons that they're here for. Now, in the future, will be worth looking at, because a little kicker for everyone. The human aliens probably took some type of local whatever and bred with it and created us. Or not us, but created something like us. The reptilians came along, found them, interbred with them, and that species was born, which was probably us. Now, those are the ones that the aliens look for the most. Those direct line of DNA descendancies are the family lines they're looking for the most. Those original sparks, because those are the ones that are going to have the most advanced contactees today, because they're going to be the oldest out of all the contactees. So they'll be looking for those and family lines directly to those and all the ones, the abductees around whenever it started. Because people don't realize this. If this started even 100,000 years ago, let's say Dave was a female 100,000 years ago and he was abducted. We're just saying reincarnation. He was a female 100,000 years ago. We'll call him Denise. And he had 10 kids, and let's say 5 of those kids lived, and they all had 2 or 3 kids each. Today, Dave's descendancies would be somewhere around 55,000. And if he had a really good family, it could be as high as 255,000. So when you start doing that and you start looking at the amount of people abducted originally, it makes you wonder actually how many people on this planet are actually being taken, and for how long are they being taken. It's a much bigger thing than most people realize. It really isn't, and they do quit abducting some people. Some people get abducted all their lives. Some people it stops for whatever reason. But even if it stops, let's say you're married and it stops, you have kids, they're going to come abduct your kids, even though they stopped abducting you. They're still going to come abduct your kids to make sure, to see if those kids are part of the project, whatever the family lines they're working on, whatever it is that they're stretching out. But more importantly, if you were listening to what I just said, they created us, that gives us at least 2 types of DNA in us, reptilian and human. Could be A and B blood, right? Reptilians might be A or B, humans might be A or B. The Greys entered into the scene later on. Originally, it was just those 2 races, and if you look through history, for the early part of history, you don't really see them talk about the Greys. The Greys showed up, depending on what your scale line of history is, anywhere from 3 to 30,000 years ago, but they showed up. When they showed up, there was actually a fundamental shift, too. and the way people looked at quite a few things on the planet. It was probably around the time of Christ. They showed up around the same time. That's when you started seeing things in Egyptian hieroglyphs somewhere around 2,500 to 2,000 years ago. Or, like I said, it could be dependent if the timeline is stretched. In other words, the timeline may be condensed. Our timeline may be much longer, but we can only go by human history. And human history has 6,000 years. Now, with the new cities found, it might be 12, but regardless, for the sake of argument, they've got us around 6,000 years, so we have to work inside that line. But the Greys do seem to have come in later on. So then they start abducting people and taking people. So now you have 3 DNAs. So now you've got A, B, and O, bloods, and 3 DNAs. And all of a sudden, we have Rh negative, which came out of the blue about 35,000 years ago. So it seems like you have another race entering DNA with us. So it makes our race very special. That means if we were something in the beginning, and then they took us in and bred with us, and then the other ones in and bred with us, that means humans have 4 types of DNA. That means sometime in the future, maybe 100,000, maybe 1 million, maybe 1 billion years, we will become better than all the races that are part of us. We may even rival the light beings one day. But of course, that's 100 million years in the future. It's not now. They know this, and maybe that's one of the reasons they want to make sure all this goes off the way it is, and this way they can monitor us until we become mature enough to become part of the galactic community and the galactic consciousness, which we are not right now. Right now, we're just like really bad, spoiled, rotten children stuck in a closet somewhere. And said we're going to keep an eye on y'all. And they do a lot of experiments.
It still doesn't really make sense, though, Joe, why, after so many years, if they've been following family lineage and spiritual lineage, why they would keep taking the same people over and over and over again. That baffles me. It baffles me to the point where, I think I'm like a lot of experiencers out there where it just doesn't make scientific sense to continue on that type of pattern.
Well, first off, you have to know the agendas in order to know what kind of pattern they should be running. But let's just do a typical family. Let's just do a typical childhood. We'll just do a typical life abduction is what we'll do. So Mary Jane gets abducted pre-birth. She goes through her young ages. She remembers stuff like my friend. She has weird interests. She's interested in vampires and dragons and demons and paranormal stuff and oddball stuff. Weird, just not your everyday girly little interest stuff. But she seems to have interest in esoteric things, even at a very young age. Then all of a sudden she hits puberty. She's being abducted fairly regularly through say, from 13 to about 30, probably weekly, maybe monthly. They're being taken regularly. They're having all kind of experiments done to them, from the milking machines to the breeding experiments to different types of emotional shock experiments, what the human body can take, what the human mind can take. They're continuously doing this. And also in that time, there's a lot of types of trainings that are going on board other craft. Some of them are military related, some of them are spiritual related, some of them are just mechanically related, meaning that it's technology based. But all of this is a lot for any human to take. And the bad part about this is on board the ships, humans have the ability to use the craft like the aliens do, which means the Greys can store knowledge on board the ship's hard drives and access it through thought. Well, humans can too when they're on board the ship. They just can't take the knowledge with them because our minds simply aren't big enough or sophisticated enough to house it. But it leaves remnants of thoughts, remnants of ideas behind. And that's why contactees a lot of times get these crazy ideas, these crazy notions, or ideas about technologies far beyond what they can understand, because they've actually seen it, witnessed it, and probably even understood it on board the ship. But here they don't. Here it's fragmented. And then on top of that, ET likes to give you regular downloads, which is to help direct you in certain directions. Contactees don't have quite as much free will as they think they do, because they do get downloads. And they want you working in directions. They want you out communicating your experiences, letting people know that this is real, helping to find ways to make other people understand this is real, working with other contactees to keep them from losing their minds. There's a lot of this stuff that goes on, and it's just stuff that goes on that the field doesn't want to talk about because, frankly, it's not exciting enough to talk about. But it's part of what goes on in contact. And then when they hit their 30s, there's a lot of other contexts going on where they're allowing you to evolve and deal with other races, like the black-eyed children thing. Everybody thinks that black-eyed children are spiritual demons. They're not. They're an extraterrestrial race. They're a race that we've known about quite some time. They've been seen on board the ships countless times. Probably got more than 500 cases that have been seen on board the ships. They're a race just like us. They're about the same technological advancement we are, and they're being abducted just like we are. They're part of whatever the Greys are doing. It's a world almost like this one. They're just another pawn in the Grey game, just like we are. But humans, because we need to make something out of everything, have to make something out of it more than what it actually is. Because it's easier to believe than to deal with the truth. And it makes it hard when you're doing real research. These kind of things. But when you get so many cases of these, you can't ignore it. You can't. And I see somebody on Facebook just wrote me about Glenn. Well, you can have black-eyed children that could be demons or ghosts. You can't rule that out. But in this case, most of what they're seeing, especially the ones I see in rooms and stuff like that, are usually in conjunction with the Greys. You might not see one, but you see the other one. It's just part of what goes on. And we are allowed to interact with them on board the craft on a regular basis. So it's another reason why the memory's in their head. But then again, like I said earlier, the memory's fragmented when you get back to Earth. So you remember these black-eyed things. You even a lot of times remember that they're not even hostile. But you don't know why. You just remember it. So then you have to make something out that you've seen this in your bedroom. So then it's got to be like a ghost or something paranormal or something demonic. You have to change it into something because your memory's fragmented and you don't know what it was. And you don't want to think it was an ET.
Few questions, Joe. A few questions coming from our audience. And this one comes from Canadian Joe at #SpacedOutRadio on Twitter. And he's asking, Joe, where do you get all your information / ideas? It's quite different.
34 years of abduction investigation and the largest UFO abduction, alien abduction organization in the world. ICAR is 21 years old, and like I just said earlier, has more than 27,000 investigated cases. And on top of that, another probably 35,000 questionnaire cases are taken. And then when you add in the more than 44,000 people who have taken the blood type study, it gives you an idea where we get our information from. No one ever even thought to do the blood type study. Think about this. They've been doing abduction research since before I was born. And no one ever thought to see if there was something with eye colors or blood types in contactees. It's a basic thing someone should have been asking from day one. And we found out that it's very significant in what we found out. It's very significant in what we found out. ET prefers Rh negative blood by far. Almost 65% of all contactees have Rh negative blood. By the way, about 1.5 billion people on the planet have Rh negative blood, and that's what they actually estimate that the majority of their contactees is around 1.5 billion. So, is it a coincidence? That's a tough one. This is what's so hard for people to understand. Rh negative is a mutation. Green and blue-eyed are mutations, none of which existed all that long ago. For some reason, there was just Rh positive, and the whole world, everybody alive 25,000 years ago had Rh positive. And then for some reason, Mother Nature decides, we're going to create Rh negative, which, by the way, kills babies, in case y'all didn't know that, until we found out about the antigenogen G gene. Rh negative, it killed babies. It still kills babies, actually, because a positive and negative will kill the child. That's why in the old days you used to have to get blood tests to have children, to get married. That's why. So you could find out if you could have children or not. Since then, we've been able to create a vaccine for it. But before that, no. Mother Nature, it's not something that was actually good from a breeding standpoint, from a procreation standpoint. Why would Mother Nature, when she's creating something to thin the herd? Is that what we should do? Nah, I don't know. That's a bit odd for Mother Nature. Usually she upgrades. But then the other thing about Rh negative, especially O negative is the universal donor. Anyone on the planet can take O negative blood. Anyone. You can be AB negative, AB positive, still Rh negative will save your life. But if you're Rh negative, which is only 7% of the world, you can only take Rh negative blood. O negative blood. And O negative blood is the purest form of blood known to man. It's where we've done almost all of our hematological studies. It's where we've got 90% of our knowledge about blood comes from O negative. So it's a very, very, very substantial thing in our society, and it seems like ET is interested in RH negative. And by the way, RH negative people tend to think differently than RH positive people. They look at the world in a different light. You don't have to take my word for it. There's hundreds of studies out there about it that aren't even ET related, just studies on blood types. This is significant. And by the way, before anybody writes or ask us, no, you can be RH positive and be an abductee. It's just, you got to look at it from a researcher's point of view. When we got involved with this study, we thought we were going to find 85-15 because that's what the world is. The world is 85% RH positive and 15% RH negative. So we figured the contactee group would meet that. What we found out is roughly 60 to 65% of all contactees are RH negative and 35 to 40% RH positive. Why? And wait, more than half, almost 70% of contactees have green or blue eyes. And the majority of the world, by far, 7 billion people or 6.6 billion people have brown eyes. You figure it out. These things are very significant when you're doing abduction research, when you find out that the majority of contactees have these things. And there's other stuff besides that. There are other mutations that seem to be prominent in contactees. It shows that there's definitely something going on. They're definitely interested in particular things, and more than likely, the RH negative is the way they track the highest concentrated alien DNAs. That's who they're interested in anyway.
Dennis has an interesting question here for you. He's saying, how do medical prescriptions affect the contactee experience for them, as in the aliens?
I don't think it matters as much to the aliens as it does as much to the contactee. I mean, think about it. I mean, if you take like 2 Xanax and you have an abduction, I'm sure it's going to be different. You might be kind of really mellow when it's going on. You take something, some uppers or some pain pills or something, it's liable to be a little bit different. You know, you might be more hyper, more tense. So it's really going to be more about you than it's going to be about them. I think they're going to treat you the same either way it goes. The Greys, for a lack of a better way of saying it, they're kind of cold in the way they treat you initially. All of them are really, but once you show them that you can be useful, or even that you have an interest and it's just not all fear, they treat you differently. They really truly want us to understand, and they want us to go public and talk about it. They're not going to do it, and the government's not going to do it, but they would like us to do it. But they're not, they want to know first off that they don't want to make you crazy. It's no good to them you being crazy because it's not going to help. And they want you to understand that, yes, they're going to take your children, but they're going to eventually put them back and do things. Because that's one of the hardest things for contactees a lot of times is to know that their 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old child is being taken, and there ain't a damn thing they can do about it. Whether it's a good experience or not, they're still being taken without mommy and daddy or without mom and daddy's permission. They're still being taken like that. And even when you hear someone talk about a really good alien experience, they still were taken without permission. Abduction is still abduction. Even if you like the abduction, it's still an abduction. So it shows you that they only give us X amount of respect. They still think of us as less than something. Less than human, not a good term, but less than something. They're not. They still don't think we're anywhere near their equals, or should even be treated anywhere near their equals. But on the other note, they want us to understand. They want us to grow. They want us to expand. They want us to be part of what goes on. And you can be, by the way, you can be any blood type and be abducted. It's just, it seems like based on the research that the RH negative seems to be a more prominent blood. And it actually makes sense when you realize what RH negative is. It does make sense that it is. But it also makes sense that, whoever they originally started abducting way back in the day were mixed anyway. So it's just odd that Mother Nature would create it. It looks more like the Greys brought it here and added it to us. And as far as we know, each letter represents an alien race, A, B, and O. Greys, reptilians, and humans. However.
You mentioned moments ago about disclosure and that the Greys wanted it to happen. A, how do you know this? And B, what do you think the holdup on disclosure is?
Well, the Greys want us to disclose. They don't ever think the government's going to do it. They want humans to be steadily talking about this. And they figure if enough people find out, then the government will eventually admit to it. The government doesn't, because look at this from a different point of view. You know, everybody always thinks, oh, ET abducts fairly around the world. Well, they do abduct around the world, but they don't exactly spread the knowledge around the world. America does military abductions because America doesn't really know what the aliens are doing. Even though we like to think they do, if they knew everything that the conspiracy people thought they knew, there would be no need for military abductions, let's be honest about it. The only reason you would abduct advanced contactees is if you were looking for stuff about agendas or technologies or things along those lines. There is no other reason for the government to be taking people. And then, you know, and plus on top of that, the government, it doesn't seem to need to want to stop this. So let's say tomorrow, crazy man Trump steps up and says, you know what, ETs are real, they've been visiting the planet and they've been taking our citizens. There's not much we can do about it, but I wanted y'all to know it. Boom! Every contactee just got a class action suit against the United States government for not protecting its citizens. So then they've got to deal with that. Then they've got to deal with the panic of knowing that ETs are taking American citizens and nothing the government can do to stop it. So now you've already got mass panic. You know, it's just not going to work. And then, of course, the religious people that don't believe that aliens exist, oh, man, and then you got that on top of everything else. Now, in the United States, it's going to be bad, but it's not going to be as bad as it's going to be in places like China or India or South America or Africa, where, one, the religious people are at a much greater rate, and two, they're just not going to understand a lot of what's being said about the extraterrestrials. Frankly, America, half of America is ready for the truth. The other half isn't. And as far as the world goes, out of 7.2 billion people here, I'd say about 500, maybe 600 million are ready for the truth. The rest are just not ready to know. And the sad part is, I don't think they want to know. I think ignorance is bliss in a lot of things, and I don't think we're just quite ready to know that we're not the center of the universe. I would love it. Look, I'd be happy they came out tomorrow and did it. I've worked with a lot of people. I've got a lot of insiders in D.C., still do. Got a lot of connections. I stay connected with a lot of people. They keep me informed about a lot of stuff that's going on, not just in the alien world, but in the technological world. But it just doesn't seem like the people really want to know. I mean, there's great TV shows about this. Ancient Aliens has been on for area. There's lots of other TV shows about this. I've seen shows that give excellent data, excellent research. And people are just like, man, well, yeah, whatever. Okay. Yeah, so there may be aliens. We're proven that there's probably life in our own solar system in more than one location, and still, are we interested? Nah, not really. Nah. Maybe it's the chemtrails. I don't know. Nah, we're not really interested. We're just kind of... I mean, you and I are interested, and probably your listeners are interested. But between the United States and Canada is about 360 million people. How many of them are actually interested? 1 million? 5 million? 10 million? 20 million? I guarantee it's not any more than that. So how can you get anything going? Go ahead.
Well, the interesting part of that you just mentioned is about the class action lawsuit by those who are taken. And actually, a few weeks ago, I actually said on this program that if Canada disclosed that they knew that this was happening, I would be at the forefront on that class action lawsuit. I want to know why this is happening to me. And if they have the answers, I'm going for it. And realistically, I can tell you this, you're the first person that I've heard who's actually said that would be a giant cause of concern for the federal government in the United States, but in any country around the world. Do you believe then that there are government people who want to keep this quiet because they don't want to pay out literally probably trillions of dollars in abduction fees, if we could call it that?
We could call it that. See, that's the problem. You know you got that. And then, how can the U.S. explain to its allies, don't even worry about its enemies, but its allies, that we have been holding on to extraterrestrial technology for 50 or 100 years and not telling them anything? And then, of course, you know, Russia and China is going to flip when they find out. So it's any way it goes, it's just not the right time for them to disclose. I mean, I wish it was. And back, there was a time when Reagan was president the world was kind of at a peaceful height. The wall had come down. There was no real wars of any kind going on. You might have been able to slip it in right there. He was talking about alien invasions from other worlds. You might have been able to, but under Bush, it was never going to happen. Obama, I don't even think they told Obama. And I don't think they've told Trump yet. And then what's funny is through research, thanks to some people like Grant Cameron, I've looked at some of their data and some other people's, it seems like the majority of presidents that have been told have been Republican presidents, not Democratic presidents, which kind of makes me wonder why. Clinton had a big interest in it. Him and Hillary were, courting the Rockefellers and other people trying to get to the truth, but they never could get to it. They would never tell them. Obama, they were just not going to tell. Daddy Bush knew. And it's funny because Daddy Bush was head of the CIA for, I think, 4 years. Then he was VP for 8 years. Then he was president for 4 years. So he definitely knew what was going on. Did he tell Baby Bush? Maybe so. Maybe that's why we went back to Iraq. Really, I don't think we went to Iraq. Whatever Daddy Bush was over there looking for, I don't think we found. I think that's why Baby Bush went back. But the question is, did Daddy tell Baby Bush about the aliens? There's no way of really knowing. Kennedy might have known, but I don't really think he knew. Nixon had an idea, but you can tell who some of the presidents by some of their actions. Reagan definitely knew because he instituted Pine Gap, Star Wars, and the HAARP facilities, which were all just designed to protect us from something in space. So he had an idea, and of course 7 different times he said, what happens if aliens invade our planet? So he had an idea. But really, other than that, I couldn't even tell you any other president. You might go back to a Democratic president back like Truman or somebody back around the war. But I don't even think we really had an idea until probably the end of World War II. Maybe beginning of World War II is when we really probably had an idea that the planet was being visited. The Germans might have knew a little bit sooner. People forget that everybody always assumes America was the most advanced country, but at the turn of the century, last century before last, the Germans were. In the early 1900s, the Germans were far more advanced than any of the other countries. So if you were an alien race visiting somebody and you were basing it on technology, that's probably who you would have visited. Not us. It would explain, too, some of their massive leaps in technology ahead of everybody else. Because, basically the rest of the world was playing catch-up with the Germans for, well, hell, even after World War II, we were still playing catch-up. So it kind of makes you wonder if they did know. And then there's the other thing. Hitler decided to make a whole population after a dream he had about 2 fair-haired, blonde-haired, blue-eyed angels. And the way he describes them, it sounds like 2 of the alien-type humans, the human-type aliens. So I'm thinking 2 human-type aliens came and seen him and were telling Hitler what to do. That just scares the bejesus out of me. I wonder if they thought they were actually helping him or not.
What do you think, then, about all of these so-called conspiracy theories that the planet is run by reptilians, that the presidents are reptilians, Hillary's a reptilian, the Queen of England feasts on virgins for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so that's why she won't die at 89 years old? What's your opinion on that?
Well, first off, the royal family are werewolves, not aliens. They've talked about that for eons, how they like to be out at night, how they like to hunt. They've talked about and it's not just us, even the Brits talk about them being werewolves, so we have to put that on them. But as far as the rest of them, I don't think so. George Bush just doesn't look like a reptilian. I mean, he just doesn't even look like he has reptilian DNA in him. The reptilians are a lot like us, or we're a lot like them. I mean, in the way they raise their children and the religion they believe in and the one religion they believe in. There are a lot of ways they're like us. They believe in protecting their family. They care about their children. Their hierarchy works different because there's alpha males and alpha females and lower ranking males and females. But I mean, they all basically have jobs, and they do believe in one big, massive religion. There's a lot that goes on in their society, and they're very advanced in it, and they do think of themselves, but they actually give us more respect than the other ones do. Think about this. Something that people don't like to think about, but in the story of Adam and Eve, the serpent gave Eve the apple of knowledge. He enlightened her. What was the first thing she did? She put clothes on. Why? Because she became self-aware. Before that, she was ignorant. She was running through the world naked. She had no idea what was going on. After the bite in the apple, she became self-aware. That was given to her by a serpent or a reptile. As you go back and you look at the Mayans, the Aztecs, Kublai Khan, stuff like that, these are all reptilians that brought gifts of life, gifts of strength, things like that, fertility and things like that. It's all throughout history. You don't even have to take my word for it. I mean, it's everywhere. Almost every ancient culture on the planet talks about reptilians in that light, not in an evil light. Even the Egyptians don't talk about them in a bad light. What they talk about is these other type, human type beings that used to come in and steal babies and do things, and some of them was described with different types of heads, but basically they were human. So it does seem that in today the reptilians have a bad rap, but back in the day they didn't. I mean, if you go look at all the ancient cultures, they were the bearers of knowledge. They were the gifts of life. And by the way, the section that they're in our brain is what makes us the people we are. It's a gift. Without it, we would just be like, it's what actually gives us who and what we are. So, I think the reptilians just got a bad rep. I think they're just us in a reptilian skin, really. And reptilians are actually a bad description because they're not cold-blooded. When you touch them, they're warm. And then on top of that, a lot of them have gills. So those would be amphibians anyway. They would even be considered that. And then some of them have tails, and there's even a few that have wings. So I'm not sure what they are, but they're not reptilian. And the way we think of reptilians being a cold-blooded animal is not what they are. Maybe they started out as reptilian, but even now they don't think that dinosaurs were cold-blooded anymore. So whatever they are, they're a lot like us. They act a lot like us, but they're just way more advanced than we are. But they do seem to like us more than the other two races do. I guess maybe they can identify with, or maybe it's because we're both from the same planet. They may have decided that because we evolved here like they did, that they may actually say, okay, well, we're all Earthlings, let's hang out together or something. But, once we found out about the Pravda map and then about the footprints underneath the dinosaur footprints, we realized that there was another bipedal race living on this planet that was not humans. It was something else. And it would have made sense that it would have been some type of alien that would have evolved during the Cretaceous, through the reptilian period, so it would have been reptilian look. Something that probably evolved 200, 300, 400 million years ago and worked through the period. But whatever it is much older than we are. As far as we know, it might have been something that evolved on another planet and came here 200 million years ago. It's just hard to wrap your head around it because there's more evidence that suggests that in some fashion they're either from here or it partially evolved here or something. And people like to break the reptilians up into different races. There's really just one race. There's 6 or 7 varieties of that one race, but it's just one race. Some of them live here on Earth, some of them live on Dracon, some of them live in other parts of the solar system. They're in the galaxy. They're pretty widespread in a known galaxy, just like the humans are. They probably inhabit a dozen, 2 dozen, maybe 100 solar systems in the grand scheme of things. So, and Earth is probably either home or maybe it was their second home, but they do have a vested interest in our planet, and they're not going to leave.
So how many species do you think are here on this planet right now?
Really and truly, the Greys don't let all that many of them down here. On board the ships, like in space, there's anywhere from 30 to 100 races up there at any given one time. Down here, there's only 3 races that do abduction: Greys, reptilians, and humans, and that's really the only ones they let come down here. The light beings come down sometimes. The tall whites or have a permanent base here. But I don't even think anybody found out about it until Charles Hall started talking about it. They have a base here. They're a whole different race on their own. They're somewhere evolved, evolution-wise, they're somewhere between us and like the reptilians or humans. They're less evolved than them, but more evolved than us. But they can't let a bunch of them down here because it's too easy to contaminate our population. Anything could go wrong. Especially on races that are not far advanced like the other ones are. It would be like letting humans go down to one of the more tribal areas and say, do not disturb and do not mess nothing up. Yeah, we already know that doesn't work. Come on. The native were flicking Bics 30 years ago. It just doesn't work that way. So they just kind of keep it on a lockdown, I guess. So basically, we know on board the ships there's a lot of different races because contactees talk about them all the time, but not so much on Earth. And if you go by direct contact on who's been seen, we can only find 6, 7 races. That's it. We can't find any more than that. People, oh, they look just like us. No. If they looked just like us, they would be evolved here. They would have came from here. They don't look just like us. Human aliens really don't look like us. First off, human aliens on average are 7 foot tall, 350, 375 pounds. Some of them do have long hair, but they have long heads. Their heads kind of go back and up a little bit. But it goes back. If you ever see the ancient pharaohs of Egypt, the ones they said that had the disease with the long head, that's what the ancient aliens look like. That's what or I should say not the ancient aliens, but the human aliens look like. So when you see them front on, you might not notice if you see them front on if they have long hair, because they do look like us. They're just bigger than us. And their eyes are a little different. They do have 6 fingers and 6 toes. But regardless, if you see them sideways, obviously they're not human. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I mean, their body is shaped a little bit tad different, but internally, we're different. We may be closer to the reptilians than we are to them on an evolutionary scale now, so or somewhere in between the two. Who knows for sure? But it is kind of strange. But when you look at them, they do. And then there's the other problem. People always tell me about this. Oh, this beautiful alien was making love to me. This overflowingly beautiful alien was kind and loving me and rode on air. Now, this does happen, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. The bad part about this is I used to get these rape cases where reptilians used to rape women, or female reptilians would rape men, or male reptilians would rape women. And in those cases, you have to be very forceful to make them stop. You have to think about it to make them stop. But we found out that under hypnosis, by the way, this was a big surprise to me as it was to anybody else. We were doing, this was about 14, 15 years ago, we were doing a regression case with this woman who had been having this affair with this. And we started talking, and I brought her in. I had her about level 3, level 4. And we were talking, and it was basically the same story going over and over and over. And I said, well, you know what? I was going to wrap it up, and I said, let me just go down another 3 or 4 levels. So I walked her down another 4 levels, and then bam, it was a reptilian. And all the reptilian did was imaging himself to him and anyone around him. That's what, or him, or he or she, is what they saw. I was like, well, ain't that some shit? And then we found that this happened way more than any of us realized. So we started asking everybody who was having these kind of experiences, could we hypnotize you? And almost everyone we hypnotized, it turned out to be a reptilian. And at first they thought they were shapeshifters, but then we got to realizing that might be a little bit hard to do all the time. But then how hard is it to maintain an image to everyone who sees you? Well, come to find out that in our DNA we're probably pre-coded as long as the image is out there to see it that way. And we were probably bred that way, for a lack of a better way of saying it. It's probably part of whatever the experiment is for all the races visiting. It's probably quite easy to manipulate what we see and how we see it. And then a lot of times I think that it's not that the person thinks they're actually out in civilization when these are happening. I think a lot of times they're like inside one of the control rooms, maybe the hologram rooms or something along those lines where this is actually going on at. So that way the person still experiences what they're seeing as human, and everything else around them is human, but none of it's actually really real except for the person doing the raping, which happens to be a reptilian. Well, in this case, wasn't raping because it was consensual, but happens to be a reptilian. If I had a dollar, man, look, for every one of these cases, I could damn retire, man. It's spookily weird. It really is, because here's people saying they're having these great love affairs, and it's both male and female, by the way. They're having these great affairs and these beautiful people, and they're so beautiful.
And on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on for a few seconds here, Joe, as we have Joe Montaldo as our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, talking everything alien, UFOs, contact, abduction. And maybe Carl at the window will show up and say hello. Damn it, Carl. Show up. We're waiting for you. Joe, I'll break down Carl for you in the next hour. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Remember, while you're listening to the break, Check out our website, spacedoutradio.com, and the plethora of features we have there for you. And head over to patreon.com. For $1 a month, you can become a patron of the mighty SOR. We'll be right back after this break.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit. And expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good news, the snow has stopped here. For how long, I have no idea, but isn't it supposed to be spring? That's it. My bag is still packed. I'm heading out in the wilderness to find my zen and my chi, giving way to Uncle Jimbo's cabin for Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson and Elizabeth Anglin, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, Saturday and Sunday night, right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in our terrestrial radio stations, the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We're also live on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, the home of The Walking Dead. Great to have you with us as well. We're also live online on Renegade Talk Radio in Las Vegas, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Bourgeoisification. Bourgeoisification is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night on this show. If you want to follow us on social media, you can go to Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio like John, Skeptic, Gravitron tonight, as they can communicate with me live during the show. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Read up on the Encounter Online, which is our news site, and you go to patreon.com, where you can donate $1 a month to become a patron of Spaced Out Radios. Tonight we are talking everything around the conspiracy of aliens, UFOs, abductions, contact with Joe Montaldo from ICAR and the owner of the United Public Radio Network. Joe, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Joe, there is always a secret that hangs around with these topics, and it usually involves government intervention. What they have, what they don't have, what are they hiding, how much do they know? Yes, it does involve disclosure, but we look at a couple of things in regards to the secrecy of secret space programs, black operations. We've had people like Ben Rich come out on his deathbed and say that we are 800 years ahead technologically than what we show the public. We've had John Podesta come out and basically say to the public, sorry, I can't get the UFO files released. Where do we all stand in regards to what the government knows and what the public knows?
Well, what the public and the government knows is quite different. The government knows a lot more than the ordinary public, but they don't know as much as people think they do, and they really don't know as much as some of the more advanced researchers do. It's one of the reasons I said earlier, it's one of the reasons they do military abductions, because it's their way of learning. ET's not all that forthcoming with what they're doing here to the government. They don't have to be. They don't have to have the government's permission to abduct people. There's nothing the government can do about it. They don't have to have permission to conduct their business in our skies or any other skies for that matter, because frankly, there's nothing they can do about it. What always bothers me is because everybody always thinks that most abductions happen at night. It's not true. Most abductions happen at daytime. They usually like to abduct people when it's easy to cover a memory, when you're just kind of, I don't know, thinking, lagging, hanging, driving, whatever it might be, whatever it is that allows your mind to roam around. That's usually when they like to take you, because it's easier to cover memories at that point. Your brain's not rushing as fast. It doesn't rush through the memory as fast. So that they like to do it that way, but they're limited to what they can retrieve, because ET's only going to let them retrieve so much. That we've heard many times that Greys especially have come and removed contactees from the military abductees' hands, have taken them away. But we've also known that for years, even with Travis Walton, that sometimes ET hands off contactees to the government. It's a 99% chance that's what happened to Travis Walton. That's why he's probably gone a week. They probably picked him up and handed him over. Matter of fact, when I was talking with Travis about him, I asked him about the people in the hangar wearing the suits. I said, did they speak English? He said, yeah. I said, they spoke. They weren't telepathic. He said, no. And I asked him what the suits looked like and what they were doing. It sounded like our suits. It sounded like Center for Disease Control, the CDC suits. That's what it looks like. That's what it sounded like. It sounds like he was handed off to them to be put back for whatever reason. It sounds like that with the Hills. It sounds like that with a couple of cases that they've simply handed the contactee off. Sounds like that one, at least two of Whitney Strieber's experiences, that he was handed off to the government and the government put him back. Because it's not that ET didn't make mistakes, because they do, but for the most part they don't. And we hear about a lot of mistakes which seem to be government related. The biggest mistake actually I can think of that ET made that I'm personally aware of is they put two wives back in different cities. They put a woman from California in a woman from New York's bed and vice versa. And of course, when they woke up, it was crazy. So the wife woke up in New York first and was freaking out because some guy was in the bed with her and she didn't know who it was. And of course, she didn't recognize the bedroom either. And the woman in California was still asleep. So when they got the phone call, because she called her house, it woke the woman and the guy up, and of course, they were in shock as well. This is a well-documented case. E.T. put them back, and the funny part is the women looked a lot alike. So somebody just made a boo-boo. Somebody just put them back in the wrong place. And there's been other things like a lady woke up in California wearing a nightie when she went to bed in a T-shirt. Well, the girls, there was a name written inside, I guess, the drawers that the girl was wearing. And she looked it up, and she said she found like about 100 of these in Japan, and she wrote to everybody. And some lady sent her a picture of her T-shirt back that she woke up in. You take the cases for what they are, but every now and then they make a mistake. But those are not the kind of mistakes you hear about that the government makes, with sloppy covering memories and the way they take people. It's harder for the government to come in and get you because, like, if you live in a neighborhood, they're more than likely going to have to gas 3 or 4 houses around you. Or they may have to gas more than that to get in and out without being seen. So that's another reason they like to take you outside of areas. It's easier, like if you get stopped somewhere or at a light, just It's just easier for the government to do it that way. It's easier for ET to do it that way, but they don't really care where you are. They'll just take you. They're more interested in your mindset than they are in your location. The government seems to be a little bit more interested in your location than your mindset, but they want to know. They're just like us, Dave. They want to know the truth. They want to know what ET's doing here. Why is they taking our citizens? Why are they not giving them more access to more technologies? You know, it's like the Roswell crash. Do you really think... Look, here's another one for you, ladies and gentlemen. You remember when George Bush was president, we had a plane got knocked out of the sky, and China had it. So we weren't going to let China keep this plane for any reason. We couldn't let them have it. Even though they sent it back in pieces, we still couldn't let them have it. Now, here's an advanced spacecraft crashed in Roswell. We know the Greys and the other aliens can walk through walls, move through things, manipulate all kind of things. So why would they leave one of their people and one of their craft in human hands when they didn't have to? It made no sense. Why would they do that? So, you know, what is it that would have allowed for them to stay there like that? What is it that would allow the Greys to have, you know, let them keep their craft or keep their citizen? More than likely, the craft that they were talking about was either an escape pod or some type of cargo ship, but more than likely an escape pod. No real relevant technology, so there's no reason to come retrieve it. The Grey itself probably suspended its own life because it could upload its consciousness into a new body. No harm, no foul. Government doesn't get anything. No need to worry about it. But even with an escape craft or a cargo craft, whatever it is, we did accumulate some technologies, because we know there was a clip from a Roswell newspaper about 6 weeks after the Roswell craft, and there were some images in the paper. One of them looked like a microprocessor like we use today. Looked just like a standard Intel or AMD chip. Nothing fancy, just looked just like a chip. Another one looked just like what we would consider aircraft aluminum. And the other one was obviously some type of fiber optics, all of which stuff we use in 2017, none of which we used back in the 50s. Wasn't even invented yet. So here was foreknowledge of something we had picked up, and now that we have incorporated it into society. But none of it seems to be as advanced as what we see flying around in the skies or what we're dealing with extraterrestrial-wise, or any of those projects. I would think that the most advanced spacecraft we probably have is the TRB-3s, and the next one's probably whatever that thing DARPA is flying around right now, that was up in space for 2 years that no one wants to tell us about. Oh yeah, we had a spacecraft up there for 2 years, flying around doing whatever, and it came home. Now we don't want to talk about it. Where was it? Was it in orbit? Was it running around through the solar system? Were they testing out an EM drive? What the hell was going on? Nope, they ain't going to tell us. And then there's the other DARPA plane that they clocked at Mach 13 before it shredded into pieces. And then there's the Texas ship, which seemed to be one of ours also. And then there's a Cass Landry ship that also seemed to be one of ours that, of course, irradiated and melted and killed 3 people. Well-documented thing. So the government seems to have as much problem as we do at getting to the truth. They have more resources and can recover more stuff, but they don't seem to be getting to the truth any faster than anybody else is. They seem to be limited in what they know. I don't even think they truly understand the agendas the aliens are running, because there's so many agendas to start off with. I'm not even sure you can fixate on just one and get a clear, objective idea of what they may or may not be doing on this planet. Because they seem to be doing a lot of different things when they take contactees, and they're seen all over the planet looking at different stuff. And now it seems like not only that they're interacting us with other alien races aboard their own crafts for whatever reason that they're doing it for. It's almost like they're checking a segment of the population and are completely not worried about the other segment, like something was coming and this was the segment they were going to save and this is the rest we're not. It worries me a little bit, because some of the agendas do push in that general direction, like the Holocaust dream. Since 1/3 of all contactees have Holocaust dreams, we kind of wonder if maybe they know something. Maybe there's something coming. Or maybe simply that they're going to divide the planet backwards or something. I don't know, but there seems to be something in general that suggests that there's a need to save at least a segment of the population. And since contactees are probably in a 1 billion, 1.5 billion, that would be a really good start of a new colony.
So why does the government then have an abduction program like MKUltra?
Well, because MKUltra wasn't exactly... First off, a lot of that's smoke and mirrors. You got to remember something. The government needs money, okay? So they make a lot of fictitious stuff, and they write about stuff, and then they leak out information to gullible ufologists. They pick it up and run with it rampantly. You got to remember, there's a bunch of the people originally, like Doty and them, that were originally supposed to be big leakers that we found out were disinformationists. So a lot of the MKUltra stuff is just that. It's disinformation. Not all of it, mind you, but how do you know what's not and what is? And who is it that allows you to be the expert on that? And that's where the real issues come in. We know a lot of the information that was put out through the 60s, 70s, and even 80s was good information. But we also know that more than 80% of what was put out was garbage. So you've got to sift through just literally tons and tons of garbage to get any decent piece of information. And then, like I said, what makes you the expert that can pick it out? It's a tough thing, Dave. It really is. A good bunch of all the conspiracies out there make it tough because the government, like everyone else, has learned it's easier to keep a lie by adding some truth to it. Like, okay, yeah, well, we do military abductions, but we're not going to tell you why we do them or what's involved in them or anything else for that matter. It's just easier to wrap the lie in some truth. It just seems to work out that better. MKUltra was a really interesting thing when we first started reading about it, but after 30 years of research, it turned out not to be what we thought it was. It's kind of like Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar is interesting, but is he real? I mean, he's a real person, but is he real? Did he work at Area 51? We know he worked at Los Alamos, but according to Los Alamos, he worked there as a janitor. So here again, who's lying and who's telling the truth? If you backtrack his schools, they don't even think he exists. So, and then one of his schools said that he didn't take any of the courses that he said he took. So who's lying, who's telling the truth? We know the government can go back and change that stuff, so is it Bob Lazar or is it the government? And what would they be hiding? Like Area 51, it never existed, and then people started getting sick, and even after they paid a lawsuit, they still said it didn't exist. They barely will acknowledge it today. And we all know the damn place exists.
Well, President Obama was the first one to actually admit in the presidency that Area 51 was there in the Nevada desert.
Yeah, it's there. It may not be the primary base anymore, but it's there. And God knows where they've moved everything else to. There's been speculation about a couple of places, but and then we know there's a big base down in Pine Gap, Australia. And then we know there's the HARP facility. There's a lot going on, and they're trying to find out, just like we are, what the hell it is, what is it ET wants, and who is going to survive this and who is not. I think Uncle Sam understands, because there's been some desperate things in the last few years that suggest that they may understand that there might be something coming or something going to happen. But when you listen to these contactees talk about the Holocaust dream, and like I said earlier, 1/3 of contactees have the Holocaust dream. At least in our groups. I can't speak for everybody, but the Holocaust dream is very specific. It talks about the annihilation of 7 or 8 billion humans through some type of plague, because they say the buildings are left intact, the cars are parked on the side of the street, there's not fires or floods or anything running rampant, the street lights and lights in the buildings are still working in most of the cities they discussed this in. Occasionally they said they would run across like military units burying thousands of people in mass graves and stuff like this. It also seemed that at least some of these people were looking to get to a destination where they could be picked up by the extraterrestrials, and they seemed to be being guided by a very specific group of contactees that were keepers or something, that were helping them get there, but actually were going to stay behind as part of some other colony. So they get very in-depth in this. And if it was just one person, David, okay, well, that's a damn good dream. But, we don't go public with something until we get X amount of cases. And then we go, and I'm going to tell you, that's not 5 or 10, 50 or even 100 cases. When we get enough cases of something that's like we've never talked about before, then we're kind of like, wow, okay, there's something going on here. You get 1,500 cases, people talking about, I've had this dream and this is what it is. And what's funny is when they describe these cities and they describe these places, they describe them in great detail. You can tell what city they're in. There's no doubt about what they are. But they also describe the cities more advanced than what they are today. It's hard to say how far advanced because, like one lady said, she was in Houston, and all the department store had facial recognition. So when you walked up to one of the windows, it would actually target you for ads or specific things by calling you by your name and, you know, looking at stuff that you had been searching online or something like that for. So it's not a technology that's readily available today, but it is stuff that we are working on today. So that makes it sound like sometime in the next 100, 150, 200 years. Most people say that at least 9 billion people would die and about 2 billion would survive. So that puts the population around 11 billion. We're right at 7 now, so that could be anywhere 100, 200, 300 years. But it doesn't seem to be all that far in mankind's future. And it does seem that, you know, part of the population will be allowed to live here. Part of the population will be taken off world. But the majority of the population just won't exist anymore. And it does sound like that some reptilians and some humans and some other aliens will be living on this planet with whatever humans are left behind. So it definitely doesn't sound like what we hear. And it's just one agenda. You know, the Holocaust dream is just one agenda out of many. And there's lots of agendas that seem to be helping man, preparing man, not just physically but mentally to grow them in all sorts of directions. To help them not just to understand themselves and their abilities and their powers, but to try to understand the universe itself and what's involved in being part of it, which we just don't understand yet. We're too young.
Joe, is there a place on this planet right now, or a base on this planet, like many suspect at Area 51 and S4, where aliens and humans are working together?
Yeah, there's one right there in Navarre Beach, Florida. Right down there, walk right down. That's what I say. You can walk right down there and see it for yourself. There's another one in an island offside of Tampa. There's a big facility down there. Like I said, there's one in Pine Gap for sure in Australia. There's a couple of places we know about in Europe. We know about at least 2 other places inside the United States itself. There's not as many as the conspiracy people would like you think. Like Dulce. Dulce's not what y'all think it is. Dulce's a really good lie, is what Dulce is. And it's not that there's not an underground facility there. There is. But it's still not what y'all think it is. And it's not, by the way, I didn't find this out from Alien Research. I found this out from someone who actually helped build the facility. They do tunneling. They're actually tunnel engineers is what they are. 2 of them really good friends of mine. And they told me exactly what was down there, exactly what was being done. And see, it's fortunately for me, having a Class 10 security clearance, I can be told stuff like that as long as I don't repeat it. It's not breaking any classifications because I have the classification already. And the FBI does do a background check on me every 4 years, like clockwork. Found that out from a customer of mine after Katrina, who's an FBI forensic expert. I was remodeling his house after Katrina, and he ran a background check on me to see who was going to be in his house. And he asked me when I showed up at his house to get my check, Joe, how come the FBI checks on you every 4 years? I said, because I have above top secret security clearance. That's why. So I can be told stuff like that. I'll be honest with you, I got some friends that work for Boeing. One of them is the lead. She is the lead engineer at Boeing, and she's in charge of the rest of the scientists and where they're going and what they're up to. I can get all that kind of information out of them, but it's not stuff you can really discuss over a phone, and it's not stuff that you can really discuss even on the internet. It's just, you know, sometimes. I'll help you just to help you understand how things works for me. I went to the all women's conference in Texas about the sighting that was down there in Texas. The one where they said the thing came over and hovered over everybody. Well, long story short, I'm down there and we go to the location where the event happened. And I'm listening to the people talk about the craft and what it looked like. So then this one guy says it's barely hovering along. He also describes 2 chase planes, sound like NASA chase planes at that. They did not sound like your typical everyday chase planes. They sound like the kind NASA used to use to follow the shuttle down. Sounded interesting, so I'm listening. So a couple of the guys then described what he would consider rivets along the leading edges. So I'm thinking rivets. That's not any extraterrestrial craft. That's not something. So right at that moment, I actually texted this woman and said, hey, look, do you know of anything that was flying over this area at this time, maybe moving towards George Bush's ranch or anything like that? Didn't get anybody's back. The next day, I sent her a copy of the video, but of what, of the conversation of that night, and told her about the sighting. Well, I hadn't checked my email yet. She had already wrote me back and told me about a particular craft. It was an Aurora-type craft that had been headed in that direction, and it was under escort. It was doing late-night testing. This is areas of the United States where there's not very many people, and that time of night they're usually asleep anyway. It was out there doing what they call supersonic testing. It doesn't actually make a boom when it breaks the sonic barrier for some reason. I'm not sure why, but anyway, they were out there testing, and they had the chase planes chasing around and things like that, but it was ours. It was not a UFO. Till this day, they still call this thing a UFO. And it's been debunked. I went on several shows and debunked it for them and explained what it was according to what the people actually described. They used their words of what they described and what she told me the craft was that was flying, and they were identical. So there was no doubt that it was one of ours. And it's not fair because, a lot of people, it's like the SR-71, not the SR-71, the original stealth fighters. Man, in the early 80s, we kept getting, and even in some of the late 80s, we kept getting these black flying things, these black triangles flying all over. Man, we were getting them all over. Then a friend of mine sat me and said, well, look, Joe, they seem to be in classified restricted airspace or near restricted airspace. So we're like, wow, we do. That's kind of strange. Well, Desert Storm starts, and guess what we find out? Oh, it's the X-117. People started seeing it, and they're like, well, that's what I saw. That's what I saw. Well, it was military. It wasn't ET. So now when we track other things, because there have been some recent sightings like the TR-3Bs, we noticed the majority of those sightings happen to be in areas or near areas of restricted airspace. So we know they belong to the government. They're not ETs. ET goes wherever the hell they want. And I really think the TR-3B is a replicant of one of the human-type crafts, just not near as advanced or as fast. But they're supposed to be able to go to Mars and other places inside the solar system. They say the Russians and us have been flying to Mars since '79, and there does seem to be some evidence to suggest that's true. But for some reason, Russia doesn't seem to possess the technology that America does, which suggests we're not sharing ET technology with them. Like, nope. Whatever little bit that we have, I don't even think we have that much of it, but we do seem to have a little bit of it anyway. And in all fairness to humans, ladies and gentlemen, I know people tell me, oh, well, we could have never developed the processor from the tube, but that's not really true. What are tubes? They're silicone. What are chips? They're silicone. It's a natural progression, actually. When you think of big glass tubes and think of little microchips, you're like, well, I can't be a natural progression, but they're both silicon conductors. So yes, it is. One was a vacuum tube, but it was made out of silicon, and the other one was a chip made out of silicon. All we did was take the vacuum tube and condense it down to a little bitty tiny little chip. Yes, it's a big leap in technology, but it's not outside of our own technological way of doing it. I do think we got a little advantage there. I think that we did recover a chip, and we realized how to structure it, but that's about it. You've never heard scientists tell you they don't understand how the inside of a microchip actually works? No, they really don't know. Yeah, they don't really know. It's at such a micro level, and it's moving. It's just data moving all inside of the chip. It's not it's not quite what humans think. And then then there's the other thing that we're seeing now: carbon chips. They're growing chips in Japan. Chips that don't get hot and can run at 100 gigahertz. I don't know what we're going to use these monster chips for, but they actually already have them in operation. They do run and work, but there's no software or anything been written for them. So they've actually have to develop software, and it's a different type of chip. But it's something you'll probably see over the next 20 years and start getting incorporated Because if they don't get hot, I mean, that's really the downfall to the modern chip today, is it gets overheated and it quits. These chips won't get hot, so you'll basically be able to run them at endless speeds. It'll make for a lot more computing power, and your computers will be so much faster, everything will be in real time. It's like my 8-core, I'm talking to y'all on right now, it's everything on it, on a 200 gig connection, everything's like real time on it. There's no real lags or anything like that. That's one of the things I like about it. It's a cool little baby. Takes good care of me.
How do you think we became so advanced in these black ops? Was it just human technology and our scientists working their tails off to create it, or do you believe the whole conspiracy side that a lot of this technology comes from reverse engineering?
I think it's actually both. I think, like I said earlier, I think we recovered a couple of small items from whatever that ship was in Roswell. Maybe the Germans gave it to us, because a lot of people seem to think that we got the craft from Germany. And brought it over to the United States and crashed the damn thing ourselves, trying to fly it. Because remember, Germany was building in 1913, 1911, they were building flying saucers. So, it seemed like they already knew about it. I mean, it might have been something we retrieved. Maybe they retrieved a craft somewhere. Maybe they found it somewhere. Maybe we retrieved it from them. But it sounds more like we crashed the damn crash than the aliens. And it would explain something about the two different crash sites and the two different sets of bodies. So it would make more sense that we actually crashed the craft. But so I think what happened is we got our hands on some basic technology, and from that point, because humans are very have a lot of ingenuity to themselves, so I think we got it, and then we started sharing it, and then we expanded on it, and in 50 years we have grown our technologically by leaps and bounds. But I don't think it was handed to us, and I do think we had to engineer a lot of it. I think really and truly, and maybe E.T. wanted us to have it. Maybe they threw us a bone. Who knows for sure? But I do think the base of the technology is from the extraterrestrials. But I think the overall function and working is from American, or I should say human, ingenuity. So I say it's both. I say it's both. We just got a little shortcut. Instead of having to learn how to mold and make the chip, we already had that. We just had to figure out how to make it work and how to have software for it. So that's what took us so long, developing software for the chip. You got to learn how to make things work with other things, and I think that's what happened. So, you have both the alien technology and the humans working along there, doing it like that. And I don't think the Greys and them really want us to be too advanced yet. I don't think they think we're ready for it yet. I really think in some aspects they do worry about us blowing up the planet. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, so y'all understand this, E.T. is not going to interfere if Russia and the United States decide to have a nuclear war. They'll just take whoever they think they need to take, and the rest of y'all are going to put your head between your legs and kiss you happy, you know what, goodbye, because they're not going to intervene. But they will take their contactees that they think are important. They will, sure enough, take them right off the planet and put them on board the ships. Or they might not even leave to take their bodies. They might just upload their consciousness to a new body and leave their old ones behind. But they're going to definitely take them. I don't think they're going to allow all that hard work to go to waste.
Then what would be the purpose if they wouldn't shut a nuclear war down?
Because they could easily terraform the planet afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that. But if we go back to the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and maybe it's still happening now, we've seen extraterrestrials fly by nuclear facilities in North Dakota and elsewhere, shutting down these facilities. So what would be the purpose of that if they didn't want it?
Oh, that was just to show that they could do it. Really and truly, they don't care. I mean, this is the way you know this. They didn't stop us from bombing Nagasaki or Hiroshima. They didn't stop 3 Mile Island. They didn't stop Chernobyl. They didn't stop Fukushima. All of which are still killing the planet. It's just, to them, it's not a thing. Radiation to them is not like we think of it. They think of it as easily cleanable up. To them, it's an effortless cleanup. And if a bunch of humans die, that's fine because they already think the planet's overpopulated. So you got to remember, they're more pragmatic in the way they look at things, and their technology is far beyond us. Cleaning up this planet for them would probably take maybe a year, maybe less. They have something that neutralizes the radiation, so boom, probably in a day that all the radiation will be neutralized. Then they have a nice clean planet to take over, and they don't have to feel guilty then, do they, Dave? They don't have to physically wipe us out. We did it for them. We just handed the planet. One of the problems is right now is probably because there are 7 billion of us, and we do have control of the planet by sheer vast numbers. And maybe they don't think it's right to kill all 7 billion of us, but if we did it ourselves, hey, it's not their problem, is it? It's like saying, would we interfere with Russia if there was a revolution inside their country? We wouldn't. We'd let them fight it out. It's just one of them things, and I don't think they're going to interfere. There's just no need for it, or they would have already done it. Again, this goes back to what I said a couple times tonight. You have to treat aliens the same way humans are. Actions speak louder than words. When have they stopped any kind of destruction? I mean, they could have easily showed up in the Middle East and stopped the war out there. They could have easily took North Korea's nukes out of action. They could have flown over there and made them all neutralized. Same thing with Pakistan. They could do it to everybody if they really wanted to, but they don't. There's 14,000 nuclear weapons on this planet, ladies and gentlemen. 14,000. We're talking 1 billion kilotons. Enough to easily put us into extinction. And they don't care. They're still there. They're still active. And North Korea is planning on testing one right now. And look at Fukushima. Why not just fix Fukushima? And they could have mysteriously done it, because there's several big radiation leaks on the Fukushima that are causing big grief. They could have flown over and done it. Global warming, ice things shrinking, that's all stuff they could correct, but they don't. Why? See, that's why I tell people, ET's not here to help us and save us. If that happens, that's a lucky break for humans as part of their agenda. But it is not their agenda. If their agenda was to enlighten us and save us, that's what they would be doing. But that is not what they're doing. If you judge them by their actions, they're not showing humans how to enlighten people. And if you're going to tell me, the one person you hear on the internet every once in a while, well, ET told me I'm spiritual, I'm enlightened. Okay, how are you going to enlighten the 7 billion people on a planet? You're not. And that's not how ET would do it anyway. If they wanted to enlighten us, they would just wake us the hell up. They have the ability to easily take over every television and radio on a planet and say, hi, I'm Bob the Gray, and I'm from Alpha Centauri, 500 light years away, and we're here to help you out on your planet. And we want to enlighten your planet and help you grow and expand and help you live long lives and happy lives and healthy lives and so on and so forth. But that's not what they're doing. They're sneaking in at night, taking your children, bringing them on board crafts, producing God knows what experiments because they can block the memories out. They don't have to tell you what it is. In reality, because they took your kid, your mind's going to shield it anyway and make it into something else. Like I said, judge them by their actions. Don't judge them by what you hear people say about them on the internet. Don't judge about what you've read or anything else. Judge them by their actions. And even if you think you're having a good experience, go through it deeper, because they're still taking you without your permission. And I've said before, there are good contacts. There are lots of them. There are lots of bad ones. There are lots of ones that are in between. So you can find any of these experiences. But just remember, if they had your best interest at heart, they would get on the phone, Carol, and say, hi, Miss Carol. This is Bob the Gray. We're over at Elman Jackson right now with your buddy Kent, and we're going to stop by and grab you and maybe grab the kids, and we're going to take you aboard the ship. We're going to take some blood, do some probing, put you in one of the programs, let you run some missions, see how you fare out, see how your mental and physical abilities wear out, and things like that. But that's not what they do at all. They do experiments like taking your eyes out of your head and reversing them back to your face so you can see yourself, removing limb parts and putting them back on, running emotional experiments, setting up breeding programs, meeting. And I can't tell you how many contactees onboard crafts meet people in real life and realize it's somebody they knew on board the craft. We've actually got a group that we work with for those kind of contacts. Because people will hear somebody's voice and they're like, wow, so then they'll describe who they think they are. And then they'll see the individual and they're like, oh shit, that's exactly who it is. But they've never met the person ever before. We have a lot of this goes on when we do group meetings at lectures or at UFO conferences, and we show up in mass. You have a bunch of people show up, all of a sudden they know each other, and they've never met each other before. It is crazily weird to watch this stuff. It really is. So, ET's educating who ET's educating. ET's showing who they're showing that they want them to know that they're here. And I've told people this a long time ago. Disclosure started happening a long time ago to contactees. They are the disclosure. ET wants us to know. I don't think they care if Joe Blow knows or not, because Joe Blow's not a consequence to them. But they want the abductees and the contactees to know. They want that segment population to know. They want you out there telling them, warning them, helping them to understand that there are something special in their lives. And people, if you are a true abductee, then you realize that you have both empathic and probably telepathic abilities. These things can be gratefully useful in your life. Think about when you're empathic, you're talking to someone, you can sense if they're lying, if they're telling the truth, what a breaking point is. If you're in a negotiation for a price or anything, you can sense whether you're close to the what the low price is or the high price. It gives you a heads-up advantage in a lot of things. That's why we preach for people to develop these abilities. And another reason the government is interested in us, because remote viewing sucks. It's one of the worst things you can do. Remote viewers can do things like they can see the newspaper on the desk, but telepaths can actually read the newspaper on the desk because they can look through the individual's eyes and see whatever they're seeing. Remote viewers can't. I've interviewed a lot of remote viewers over the years. Remote viewing is not the same as a telepathic communication or being in someone else's head while they're moving around. It's just not the same thing. When I did, what's his name, Ed Dames, him and I got into this in great detail, and they taught their guys to look for like missiles and different things, and that kind of stuff worked really well. Big targets were easy. Fine print targets were not. That was outside their purview. That's why the government's so interested in gifted contactees and gifted psychics. And in case you didn't know, both the Navy and the Air Force have psychic ability programs. They're legit. You can look them up for people who have psychic abilities or want to develop psychic abilities. The Air Force and the Navy is looking for people with these abilities. Think about this. Do you know a true telekinesis? Think about him. Trump could call him right now and say, John, my telekinesis guy, look, Putin's bothering me. Can you squeeze an artery in his head? He's dead. Everybody thinks he had an aneurysm. It's over with. No fuss, no muss, no bother. Obviously, the technologies aren't that great yet, or the development of those part of the brains aren't that great yet, or you'd be hearing about it more often. But there are a few gifted people out there that possess telekinesis, which is the mind over matter, basically. Telepathy is a lot more out there, and empath. All contactees are empathic. But you work on these abilities, you can develop all these abilities at a greater rate, a faster rate. And if you're honest and you teach your children, they can be twice the telepath or psychic ability that you ever were. Because the younger you start realizing you have these abilities, the easier are they use and the better they're going to work. It's a simple concept. So the government's interested in all of this stuff. And they have a vested interest in all this. I mean, security of the nation, whatever you want to call it, they need to have them because Russia might have them or whatever. They need to have these things. So therefore, they're looking every time they get. And this is why I tell contactees to be careful, advanced contactees to be careful when they go public. Because when you get on a TV show or a radio show and you start talking about advanced contactee stuff like knowing parts of agendas or understanding how particular drives work or guidance systems work, you're setting yourself up for military abduction because they're going to take you and they're going to scan you and they're going to get as much information out of your head. They use sodium pentothal, and it's a sodium amylothal pentothal mix. They shoot you up with this stuff. It makes you like, ooh, it's a true serum and a relaxant and a couple of things, and they put you under deep hypnosis, and you basically sell your damn soul for anything. It works really, really well. Not many people can resist it. But like I said, there have many cases where the Greys have showed up when it's gone overboard or gotten too many things. But all of it's a bit scary. What's up, Ben?
Well, I'm just kind of curious here because it sounds like a lot of fear-mongering going on. It sounds, and do you think that when we think about things like this, when we think about not knowing the agenda, not knowing what the government agenda is, And then we see what's happening in a world that seems to be in decline at a mere moment's notice here. Do you think the fear-mongering is warranted, or do you believe that maybe, just maybe, that we should be trying to find, lack of a better term, not to sound all cute and cozy, but trying to find the positive side of things, because it just seems very, very negative, Joe, on what's going on?
A lot of it is when it gets government related. A lot of researchers out there are trying to find positive stuff, but for the government, they're looking for different stuff. And unfortunately for us, or any contactee out there, or any researcher for that matter, a lot of the negative stuff has repercussions for the people in the fields, or the contactees being taken. You know, there's nothing like being abducted by an alien and then being dropped off, and then the frickin' military shows up, drags you out of your house, does all kind of shit to you, puts you back, and you're just like, well, you know, thank you. So then you're really confused, Dave, because think about this. You've got your daily memories in your head of everyday life, right? So you're thinking about your wife, your kids, whatever. Then E.T. picks you up. So now you got all those memories in your head, plus you got E.T.'s memories. Then the government comes, picks up, and they're trying to do some half-ass government wipe in your head. So now you've got E.T. memories, family memories, and then you've got, of course, this poor wipe done by the government. Now you've got 3 different sets of memories in your head. Now they're all starting to meld together and mix together, and what happens? They create false memories. And then you don't really know what the hell's true in your head anymore. And then the bad part is, if it's done in a certain way, you can't tell a difference if it's a false memory or a real memory, because your brain logs it as a real memory. So it makes it really hard to get to the truth sometimes. It's tough. It's dangerous. I tell people all the time, be sure you want to go public. I tell them 2 things, one about hypnosis and one about coming out of public. Be sure you want to be hypnotized, because once I open that can of worms up in your head, there's no putting it back in. Once this is out and you know you're an abductee and you know these things have been going on, and you know this has been going on a lot more in your life than 1 or 2 times such a thing, because there's no such thing, ladies and gentlemen, I've said this 1,000 times, there is no such thing as a one-time contactee. It just doesn't happen. They never take you in the middle of your life. They always start at birth and work through. It's just the way they do things. There's no such thing as a one-time contactee. And remember this, people say, well, no. 98% of all contactees will never know that they've been taken. 98% will never know. They will never know they've been touched, they've been taken, or anything else. The other ones, like when I was talking about Dave, certain things kick you off that make you start remembering. And sometimes they're fake memories, and sometimes they're not, but it's trigger memories that make you start to realize that there is much more going on in your life than what you think. And it makes you start to dig, and then it makes you start to incorporate. Then it makes you start getting out there and telling people about it. It starts taking over your life. Next thing you know, you're doing a radio show 7 days a week, 3 hours a day. You're selling your soul out just so you can make sure it gets out every day, or you open up a radio station, or you get on television. But there's a drive that you're like, where the hell did this drive came from? Man, if I could get this drive for work, I'd be a millionaire. What the hell's going on here? You know, what's pushing me like this? Yeah, it's that ET part of you. It's pushing away. It wants you out there. I mean, a lot of y'all will wake up on board the ships in fear, which is appropriate in the beginning, but the longer this goes on, the more time it happens, the more time you help other people, like if you're a keeper and you're working on board the ship, helping other contactees to get through this, you start to remember things that happen on the ships. You understand more. You really become a useful individual for them. And they don't want anything to happen to you. They want to keep an eye on you. They want you to be part of what's going on. They really want you to do this. And, of course, when the government finds out about people like that, they're just doubly interested in those people, because they probably have secrets that the government would be interested in. But just remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you think you're an abductee or a contactee, whatever you think may or may not happen to you is irrelevant at this point. Just know that this happened probably in your family line. Your dad or your grandmother or whoever, going back God knows how far, are probably been taken as well. Your siblings are probably being taken. Your parents are probably being taken. The problem is nobody really remembers. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because you can talk to your family about this. You can find out things about them which will help you to wake up more without actually waking up your family, because it's not always good to convince your family that this is also going on in their life, because then, of course, they're going to freak out. One freak out per family per however long. But it does help. I mean, you can talk, and then you'll find out sometimes like a brother or sister will tell you about something they've seen or something weird, and you're like, wow. Or one of the kids will say something to you. You want to ask questions because that's the only way you can find out it's happening to other members in your family. And it will keep happening to people all around you until, like I said, ET feels like they're no longer useful. Or and sometimes what happens is the children replace the parents as far as some of the early types of experience. As far as parents working as keepers or communicators, that tends to happen a lot too. And what I mean by that, keepers are people who work with contactees on board the craft and in other places. Communicators are people who have a need and a drive, no matter what, to put a message out that ET is here, and they're not necessarily great for us, but they're not necessarily hostile to us either. It is a workable relationship, and that's basically what they're trying to put out to people. But things get so blown up and so messed up, and people want to make so much about just themselves that it gets confusing. Unfortunately, we're humans, and we think everything needs to be about us. Whatever the experience or whatever the contact is, it needs to revolve around us. And in most cases, that's not true.
How do you think the paranormal ties into this, whether it's ghosts, whether it's shadow people, whether it's spiritual or demonic entities?
Well, seems to be a lot of paranormal aspects to contactees, or maybe some people seem to think that the contact draws the paranormal. But like I said at the very beginning of the show, some of the questions we ask are, do you have an interest in vampires? Do you have an interest in like Dungeons and Dragons? Do you have an interest in different things, like ghosts, demons, and stuff like that, paranormal, this, poltergeist? We want to know because there's usually a reason why, and contactees usually have an interest in all of these. So the real question is the paranormal generating the contact, or is the contact generating the paranormal, or is one attracted to the other because they're both esoteric? It's a good question. I don't think anybody knows, though. Right now, I think it would be an argument about whoever wanted to say what it was. All I can tell you for sure is there does sometimes, in abduction cases, seem to be paranormal activity to different extents for different reasons. There does also seem to be a lot of poltergeist activity around abductions. Some people think it maybe has something to do with magnetic fields or fields that the craft and the aliens generate themselves, which may be true. Or maybe they generate a certain resonance on a certain plane which activates anything paranormal around them, Like if a house is truly haunted, maybe the particular energy they carry allows them to be awoken or interfered with or activated. It's hard to say, though, but I know there's a lot of people looking into it. There are a lot of people trying to figure out, because, there's a lot of crossover between the two fields. There really is a lot of crossover. See, I was raised in New Orleans, which is a paranormal city to start off with. Man, you see some crazy stuff down there at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Vampires all over the damn place, walking around, things standing in front of you that just disappear. I got a video driving down the road, and this guy walking across the road, but then when you look at the video, the guy is hollow. Or transparent, I'm sorry, not hollow. It's one of the craziest things, and we didn't see it, by the way, while we were driving. The camcorder caught it. We didn't see it. We got one where we're filming a church at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're just sitting there because it's a spooky-ass looking church, so I wanted to film it. And I was, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I was drunk. It was about 4:30 in the morning. I'm standing out there with a Q-beam, which is a big, powerful light, and a digital cam recorder. And I'm recording this thing, and all of a sudden, you see a shadow shift, and there's like a black thing standing in a window, and then all of a sudden there's something bigger standing behind it. It spooked the living bejesus out of all of us. We put the videotape online. It was up online for a long time. It scared the bejesus out of all kind of people, and then somehow or another on the tape itself it got clipped. The section right, you can still see the beam when it walks, but then it's gone. The tape clipped itself somehow. Well, okay, I was thinking, okay, well, that sucks. It clipped it. I can't watch it, so I'll go download it. Well, guess what? Everyone on the internet was clipped in the same place. Now, I guarantee you at least 10,000 people seen this, so there's at least that many witnesses to this. It is crazy that it happened that way. It was definitely just clipped out on the tape itself, and then when you went looking for it on the internet, it had been clipped in the same location. Whatever it was, some people said they thought it was a gray, two different types of aliens standing in this room, and that's why the government clipped it, because they didn't want to know. Some people thought it was demons. Whatever it was spookily scary looking. That's all I can tell you. I have no idea what it was. I didn't get a sense of anything other than maybe I should get in a car and get out of the way. That's about the only sense I got out of it.
Yeah, no
so
kidding.
I said, yeah. So at that point, I said it's time to go. But you run into those kind of things when you do this kind of research, and it's good. Scary's good, sort of. It's kind of fun. We go to places. 300. They got 300-year-old graveyards down here full of baby caskets and stuff. It's fog over the ground when you're walking back there and stuff. It's really spooky. But it's one of the things about living in an old city.
Absolutely. And Joe, we only got about a minute left with you here, my friend. Man, that flew by.
I have to get you to come back on one night. We'll do good and bad experiences, so people don't think everything's bad or everything's good. There's a lot of experiences which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't actually talk about types of contacts tonight. We were just talking kind of around them. But there are a lot of different types of contacts, and a lot of them are good, and a lot of them are bad, and a lot of them are just contact. I mean, There's nothing really bad or good about it.
Tell us where they can find information on alien contact, especially if they've had contact.
Well, guys, if you're really looking for somebody, you can write to www.icar1.com or pop over to the website. You're on there. You can always find us on United Public Radio. They do broadcast on the network 4 or 5 different shows a week, so you can go over there and check it out. You also can catch, Dave here at 11 to 2 a.m. on our network every week, so he's there. But if you're looking for me personally, the best way to catch me, you can write to ICAR, but I get a lot of people in there. And if you really want to talk to me, I would suggest that you show up in the Pal Talk Virtual Audium on a Wednesday night when I'm doing UFO Undercover. That's one of the fastest ways to get me, because I'll be in the chat room while I'm doing the show, and I will be reading the chat room. I was in here with y'all tonight all on the Alien Hunter anyway, but I do pay attention to chat rooms when I'm in them. So that is really a faster way to get me. If you can write to me, but I can tell you right now, and I'm not going to lie to you, the waiting list is probably 3 to 6 months. You will get a response letter back, and it will probably tell you something along those lines. Even with the amount of directors we have, not just in the U.S. but worldwide, we're that far behind. There's just a lot of contact going on, a lot more than most people realize. And we're one of the groups that ufology calls us their best kept secret, because no one really knows about us, but everybody really knows about us. Figure that one out.
And on that note, Joe, I got to shut this thing down because my weekend is about to start. Joe, I want to thank everybody who took part in the show in this week, from our guests to everybody in the chat room to everyone on Twitter and wherever you are listening. Make sure you join us sometime in the chat rooms. Come say hello. Join us on social media, because we do this thing every single night of the week. Yes, we are here at spacedoutradio.com 7 days a week. Hey, tell a friend. Share the show. We want to own the night. You can help us do that. Mr. Bumblefoot, take us home.